Chapter 556. One had to know that the power of Tao that everyone comprehended was different. Even if it was the same Tao, there would definitely be subtle differences. In this world, there were no two Tao powers that were exactly the same. One could imagine the Tao powers of Sun Jiuxiao and the others entering Shi Tiangong's body. How much damage would it cause to Shi Tiangang? Big brother. Sensing Shi Tiangong's weak and chaotic aura, Shi Tianyun's expression changed slightly. Sun Jiuxiao and the other descendants of the three sovereigns were also worried. Don't worry about me. Focus on sealing the immortal spirit grass. Shi Tiangang gritted his teeth and ignored the injuries in his body. The immortal spirit grass was related to the descendants of the three sovereigns and the future of the imperial palace. No matter what, they had to capture and seal the immortal spirit grass. This way, when they met up with Qin Yu, they could let Qin Yu refine the immortal emperor pill. As long as the immortal emperor pill was successfully refined, Shi Tiangang would not hesitate to give up his life, let alone be severely injured. The storm in the spiritual state had temporarily subsided. However, Shi Tiangang knew that the immortal emperor pill was still alive. The extraterritorial demon race had concocted such a shocking scheme, and there would definitely be major follow-up actions. Therefore, if the imperial palace wanted to survive this storm, they had to reignite the bloodline of the three sovereigns. Otherwise, even if they formed an alliance with the forces of the spiritual state, they would not be able to deal with the future turmoil. Hearing Shi Tiangong's words, Sun Jiuxiao and the other descendants of the three sovereigns looked at each other and unleashed their Tao arts and True Yuan. The secret technique used to seal the immortal spiritual grass required a divine emperor to be able to activate it. However, the imperial palace did not have any divine emperors at the moment, so they had no choice but to use this method. As Shi Tiangang and the others worked together to activate the mysterious ancient runes, the immortal spirit grass on the lake was sealed by more and more ancient runes. No matter how much it struggled, it could not break free from the ancient runes. If one looked carefully, they would notice that the ancient runes were slowly seeping into the immortal spirit grass. Those ancient runes gradually seeped into the immortal spirit grass, causing the resistance of the immortal spirit grass to weaken. 4 symbols God sealing technique. When the ancient runes had seeped into the immortal spirit grass, Shi Tiangang, whose face was already pale, suddenly shouted. The mysterious ancient runes on his palms shook violently. As if they were affected by a chain reaction, the ancient runes on the lake began to tremble violently. As the lake trembled, the ancient runes that covered the entire lake gradually gathered with the immortal spirit grass at the center. After about 2 hours, a 4-symbol seal appeared, sealing the immortal spiritual grass within it. Quick! Shi Tiangong's eyes, which had become increasingly dim and lifeless, suddenly shone with an intense radiance as he hurriedly spoke. Shi Tianyun, Sun Jiuxiao, and the others immediately flew out of the stone forest and grabbed at the sealed immortal spiritual grass. Bang bang! But at this moment, 2 figures appeared from the void without any warning. Violent and terrifying attacks bombarded the area. Caught off guard, Shi Tianyun, Sun Jiuxiao, and the others were sent flying several hundred zhang away. Even though they had the advantage of numbers, they didn't suffer any serious injuries. However, they were getting further and further away from the sealed, immortal spiritual grass. Hee. Thank you for your hard work in sealing it. An extremely excited laughter could be heard. At the center of the lake, a figure flew down and reached out to grab the sealed, immortal spirit grass. The 3 of them were all peak sovereigns and wore the same attire. It was obvious that they were from the same faction. Phaseless sacred ground. Seeing the insignia on their attire, Shi Tiangong's eyes immediately turned sharp and cold. Phaseless sacred ground was a super faction in the Middle States' 3rd divine realm. The master of the sacred ground was also a super expert who had reached the level of an ancient emperor. Shi Tiangang didn't expect that the fluctuations of the immortal spiritual grass would still be detected after they had spent so much effort to set up the barrier. Damn it! Shi Tianyun, Sun Jiuxiao, and the others were enraged. They had paid such a huge price to seal the immortal spiritual grass. How could they let someone take it away just like that? Immediately, they used all their strength to execute their secret techniques and charged at the person at the center of the lake. At this moment, they didn't care which faction their opponent was from. If anyone dared to touch the immortal spiritual grass, they would kill without mercy. Rumble. The two peak sovereigns who had launched the sneak attack earlier sneered as a divine statue appeared in each of their hands. The divine statues flew into the sky and transformed into 100 jong, tall Vajra Arhat. As a vast divine aura spread out, the two Vajra Arhats shone with divine light. One after another, divine fists bombarded towards Sun Jiuxiao, two people like a violent storm. Those divine fists contained unparalleled divine power. Each punch was enough to kill an emperor. Even Sun Jiuxiao and the other peak sovereigns didn't dare to underestimate them and used all their strength to resist. I'll take the immortal spiritual grass. In the center of the lake, the peak sovereign directly grabbed the immortal spiritual grass. No one knew what kind of secret technique he had used. Shi Tiangong's four symbols god sealing technique had no effect on him, allowing him to easily grab the immortal spiritual grass. Oh no! But the moment he touched the immortal spiritual grass, countless mysterious ancient runes erupted from the immortal spiritual grass. The originally excited peak sovereign's expression changed drastically. He quickly wanted to withdraw his hand and retreat. But at this moment, the immortal spiritual grass seemed to contain an endless suction force, sucking him in and making him unable to move. I'm afraid you won't be able to take it away. At this moment, Shi Tiangang, whose face was pale and bloodless, revealed a cold smile. When the peak sovereign reached out to grab the immortal spiritual grass, the mysterious ancient runes on Shi Tiangong's palm completely merged into his palm. Shi Tiangong's vitality was constantly being absorbed by the mysterious ancient runes. Rumble. It was like a sudden clap of thunder, causing everyone's ears to rumble. At this moment, with the lake as the center, the landscape within a 1,000-mile radius seemed to come alive. A monstrous divine array soared into the sky, covering the sky. As the divine array soared into the sky, a dazzling starlight descended from the sky. Its target was the peak sovereign who was being sucked in. Save me. The peak sovereign, whose pupils shrank violently, could only let out a cry of horror and despair. Under the starlight, he immediately lost his life, his soul dissipating. How is this possible? The two peak sovereigns controlling the golden Arhut statues raised their heads and looked at the divine array above the sky jade. Cold sweat broke out on their faces, and their eyes were filled with intense fear. To kill a peak sovereign with one move, the power of this divine array was probably stronger than that of a divine emperor. Cough, cough. At the same time, Shi Tiangang coughed violently, spitting out blood uncontrollably. Go and get the immortal spiritual grass. When Shi Tianyun and Sun Jiuxiao saw Shi Tiangong's appearance, their expressions became resolute. They immediately ignited the bloodlines of the three emperors and entangled the two golden Arhats. Just in case, they had already set up a barrier and a divine array around them. However, with the power of that divine array, it was impossible to kill a peak sovereign with one move. Shi Tiangang must have paid a huge price. Chapter 557. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Among the other core sovereigns and elders of the Heavenly Imperial Palace, three high-level sovereigns immediately broke away from the battle and rushed toward the immortal spirit grass. The other sovereigns and elders fought side by side with Sun Jiuxiao to hold back the two top sovereigns of the notionless sacred ground. Seal. As the two top sovereigns were held back, there was no one to stop them. The high-level sovereigns quickly appeared in front of the immortal spirit grass. Without any hesitation, they immediately took action and captured the immortal spirit grass from the four symbols god sealing technique. Swoosh, Swoosh! However, just as they were getting excited, a white light flashed across the sky like a meteor shower. The sound of flesh being pierced was heard, and the three high-level sovereigns of the heavenly imperial palace were all killed. Who is it? Shi Tiangang and the others from the heavenly imperial palace were shocked by the sudden change. Even the two top sovereigns of the notionless sacred ground were shocked. They did not expect there to be someone guarding behind them. They were obviously using them as bait. As the core sovereigns of the heavenly imperial palace were killed, the immortal spirit grass that had fallen to the ground was caught by a pure white giant palm. The pure white giant palm was formed by the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Soon after, as the void rippled, more than 10 figures appeared in the void. Xuanyu Holy Dynasty. The sovereigns of the heavenly imperial palace and the notionless sacred ground immediately recognized them. Xuanyu Holy Dynasty was one of the famous dynasties in the Central Plains. It was rumored that Xuanyu Holy Dynasty's inheritance could be traced back to the ancient times, and it could be called an ancient dynasty. The people of Xuanyu Holy Dynasty had obviously witnessed the fate of the notionless sacred ground's top sovereigns. Therefore, they did not dare to use their hands to grab the immortal spirit grass, and they gathered the spiritual chi of heaven and earth to replace their palms. 4 symbols God sealing technique. Shi Tiangang, who was about to take out the mysterious ancient rune in his palm, formed another seal with his hands. The divine array in the sky rumbled, and a divine aura that could shake the 9 heavens spread. Seal. The leader of the Xuanyu Holy Dynasty was a bald man with a domineering aura. His name was Yang Xuansong, and the sovereign was the sovereign. Although Yang Xiansong was not a divine emperor realm master in the Xianyu divine dynasty, he was someone who could be conferred the title of king. Rumor had it that Yang Xuansong and the Xuanyu divine dynasty's imperial family were closely linked. The instant Shi Tiangang formed a seal to control the divine formation, Yang Xuansong suddenly let out a low shout. The heaven and earth spiritual energy palm that was grabbing onto the immortal spiritual grass directly grabbed onto the entire stalk of immortal spiritual grass, completely sealing off its movements. Rumble. At this moment, another beam of dazzling starlight fell from the sky dome divine formation. Just as the people from Xianyu Holy Dynasty were about to attack, Yang Xuansong waved his hand to stop them. Wu Tianhuangji. Yang Xuansong let out a loud shout, and his whole body emitted a vast and majestic divine light. Each of those divine lights contained an immortal and invincible imperial might, as if a god had descended from the heavens. Rumble. It was the starlight that had killed a peak emperor of the phaseless sacred ground with a single move. At this moment, when it came into contact with Yang Xuansong's divine light, it was as brittle as glass and instantly shattered. What happened? This scene caused the emperor of the heavenly imperial palace's expression to change drastically. The 2 peak emperors of the phaseless sacred ground were shocked. The starlight that was previously as powerful as a divine emperor's, how could it be so weak now? Has he already seen through it? Shi Tiangong's gaze froze, and a look of disbelief appeared on his pale face. As expected, the attack of the divine formation absorbed the energy of the immortal spiritual grass. Yang Xuansong looked at Shi Tiangang, and a strange look appeared in his cold eyes. Without damaging the immortal spiritual grass, Shi Tiangang could directly absorb the immortal spiritual energy of the immortal spiritual grass and integrate it into the formation. Such a method could be said to be unimaginable. Although Yang Xuansong was from Xianyu Holy Dynasty, he had never heard of such a secret technique. Heavenly Imperial Palace, huh? Yang Xuansong's eyes flashed, and his figure suddenly flashed as he grabbed at Shi Tiangang at lightning speed. Judging from Shi Tiangong's previous actions, his knowledge of the immortal spiritual grass was clearly far superior to others. Since he had secrets, Yang Xuansong naturally did not mind searching his soul. Palace Master, Big Brother, Shi Tanyun, Sun Jiuxiao, and the other core emperors wanted to rush out. They ignored the 2 peak emperors from phaseless sacred ground and immediately rushed towards Shi Tiangang. In Shi Tiangong's current state, he would not even be able to deal with a high-level emperors, let alone a peak emperor. Don't get in the way. The peak emperors from Xian Yu Holy Dynasty naturally did not sit back and watch. They all moved and intercepted Shi Yuntian and the others halfway. Although they had fewer people than Heavenly Imperial Palace, they were all peak emperors. With more than 10 people working together, they easily blocked Shi Tianyun and the others. Hey, you want to kill me? Shi Tiangang looked at Yang Xuansong, who was getting closer and closer. His expression did not change, but his gaze became sharper. The Tao art origin and true Yuan origin in his body had already condensed to a point. A trace of extremely destructive fluctuation spread out. Shi Tiangang knew that if he fell into Yang Xuansong's hands, he would definitely die. Since that was the case, he might as well self-destruct. Rumble. However, at this moment, a vast divine aura descended, as if an immemorial divine emperor had descended. The void boiled like boiling water. Rolling flames swept out like a flood, burning everything. This is the heaven refining divine cauldron, Heavenly Imperial Palace. Yang Xuansong immediately sensed it and looked up. He saw a huge flaming cauldron in the sky, covering the sky and the sun. All of them were instantly engulfed in a sea of fire. Retreat. Yang Xuansong's face darkened. He did not expect Heavenly Imperial Palace to hand over such a supreme divine weapon to his sex martial artists in order to fight for the immortal spirit herb. They did not have any divine weapon that could resist the heaven refining divine cauldron. Now that they had obtained the immortal spirit herb, there was no need to fight with Heavenly Imperial Palace. As for the secrets of Heavenly Imperial Palace, there would be plenty of opportunities in the future. Since you're here, stay. An indifferent and emotionless voice sounded. The heaven refining divine cauldron suddenly became more than 100 times bigger. The area within 1,000 miles was covered by the giant cauldron. Yang Xuansong and the other peak emperors from Xian Yu Holy Dynasty, who were about to retreat, were completely trapped by the heaven refining divine cauldron. 3 figures appeared in the middle of the sea of flames. They were Qin Yu, Pan Hong, and Tai Shu Kong, who had rushed over. However, the 3 of them had changed their appearances, and this was not their true appearance. You're courting death. Kill. Yang Xuansong looked at the space of the heaven refining divine cauldron that was filled with terrifying divine aura. He knew that he could not break the cauldron and leave. Immediately, he soared into the sky with murderous intent. Rumble. More than 10 peak emperors burst out with their full strength. The rolling flames in the void were directly blown away, unable to get close to them. Release. Qin Yu's indifferent gaze did not change at all. He simply formed a simple seal with his hands. Immediately, the heaven refining divine cauldron was completely released. A vast and boundless pressure appeared. Chapter 558. Yang Xuansong and the others felt as if they were being crushed by a mountain. They were forced to sink a few hundred feet. How can the pressure be so strong? The people from Xuanyu God Dynasty were shocked. They found it hard to believe. Could it be that the people from a northern sect can unlock the power of the heaven refining cauldron? A thought flashed through Yang Xuansong's mind as his expression changed drastically. An ominous feeling rose in his heart. Most of the divine weapons in the heaven region were in the hands of the ancient emperors. Only a few powerful divine emperors had divine weapons. However, one had to be an ancient emperor in order to fully unleash the power of the divine weapon. Yang Xuansong was worried that the northern sect's ancient emperor might be secretly helping the people from the northern sect. If that was the case, they would be in big trouble. Kill, Qin Yu said coldly. Before he could finish his words, he was already a few hundred feet away. Pan Hong and Tai Shu Kong also rushed out with their powerful auras. The skeleton Ghost King and Dragon Soul did not just stand by and watch. Rumble. The people from Xuanyu God Dynasty would not just sit there and wait for their deaths. They resisted the terrifying power of the heaven refining cauldron. One after another, powerful divine abilities and secret arts burst out like surging waves. The space of the heaven refining cauldron became a battlefield of destruction. Is that Shen Feng? Sure, Tiangang, who thought he was going to die and self-destruct, felt the energy from Qin Yu. His eyes lit up. Even though Qin Yu had disguised himself, he could still sense it. Primordial divine power. Destroy. Ancient space-time killing array. 9 serenities purgatory. Break. Immortal sacrifice forbidden art. Die. At this moment, Qin Yu was like the god of death on the battlefield. Mysterious mystiques and secret skills exploded from his hands. Under the suppression of the heaven refining cauldron, the top sovereigns from Xuanyu God dynasty could not resist Qin Yu. After a series of secret technique attacks, they were either killed or sent flying with heavy injuries. Moreover, Qin Yu now had the help of Pan Hong and Tai Shu Kong. The increase in his battle power was not just a little bit. Not long after the battle began, 4 of Xianyu Divine Dynasty's top sovereigns were killed and 3 were severely injured. More than half of the dozen or so top emperors were killed in an instant. It would be hard to believe that such a large number of casualties had occurred in such a short time in a battle between top emperor realm masters. But now, such a situation was playing out in front of everyone. You're not from Qingbei sect. Who are you people? At this moment, Yang Xuansong, who was barely able to resist the attack even after using a forbidden art, finally came to his senses. None of the divine abilities and secret arts that Qin Yu and the others executed came from Qingbei sect. If it was only one person, it would make sense, but everyone was like this. This could only mean that Qin Yu and the others were not taught by Qingbei at all. However, this caused Yang Xuansong's heart to turn cold. Since the heaven-refining divine cauldron had fallen into Qin Yu's hands, it was easy to imagine what would happen to Qingbei's sect and the others. After all, the combat power that Qingbei's sect had sent this time was not any weaker than them. Have you noticed? Unfortunately, it's too late. 5 gods heaven subduing formation. Qin Yu sneered, with a thought in his mind. An ancient killing array, like an awakened ancient beast, crashed into Yang Xuansong and the others with a monstrous power. Puff! Even though they had noticed it, they were still unable to resist the power of the 5 gods heaven subduing formation. Immediately, another 3 people were killed, and Yang Xuansong and the others were severely injured. Die! Qin Yu, Dragon Soul, Pan Hong, Tai Shu Kong, and the Skeleton Ghost King seized the opportunity and executed their destructive killing moves. Rumble! An earth-shattering battle broke out. However, outside the heaven-refining divine cauldron, the battle here did not spread at all. Where did these people come from? The 2 top-notch sovereigns of the phaseless sacred ground looked at the scene in front of them in a daze. A peak Emperor Realm Master was slaughtered as easily as if he were slaughtering chickens or ducks. Such a scene made them feel like they were in a dream. All of you, stop right there. You want the immortal spirit grass, right? I'll give it to you. When there were only 4 top-notch sovereigns left in Xianyu Divine Dynasty, Yang Xuansong finally spoke. As he spoke, his right hand moved, and the immortal spirit grass that was sealed by the spiritual chi palm appeared. The spiritual chi palm was emitting a chaotic fluctuation. Looking at Yang Xuansong's appearance, if Qin Yu and the others did not agree, he would destroy the immortal spirit grass. Since you were so tactful, Qin Yu smiled gently, as if he was ready to accept Yang Xuansong's suggestion. The originally violent and destructive battlefield was temporarily calm. However, at this moment, 2 spatial cracks appeared around the spiritual chi palm on Yang Xuansong's right hand without any warning. One of the spatial cracks cut through Yang Xuansong's Tao art and true origin. The other one swallowed the spiritual chi palm that sealed the immortal spirit grass. How? All of this happened in an instant. Before Yang Xuansong could react, he found that the immortal spirit grass had disappeared without a trace. Now, how are you going to negotiate with me? Qin Yu sneered and waved his right hand. The Dragon Soul, Pan Hong, Tai Shu Kong, and the Skeleton Ghost King immediately swarmed forward, and a violent battle started again. I'll kill you all. Yang Xuanzang let out a crazy roar, and his aura was as fierce as a tiger's. Unfortunately, at their level, it was no longer a competition of blood qi. Under the absolute suppression, the sovereigns of Xianyu divine dynasty died one after another, and their souls scattered. At the last moment, Yang Xuanzang was prepared to self-destruct, but he was torn apart by the spatial cracks that appeared without any warning. After reaching the Emperor realm and controlling the bloodthirsty slaughter heavenly dragon body, the dragon soul's control of space-time divine abilities had reached a terrifying level. The battle of Xianyu divine dynasty came to an end. The skeleton ghost king used the boundless 10,000 beast divine ability to control the phantoms of the desolate beasts and madly devoured their vitality. The dragon soul appeared beside Xianyu, and space-time fluctuations appeared, and the sealed immortal spirit grass appeared. Just now, the dragon soul used its space-time divine ability to snatch the immortal spirit grass in an instant. Master, the people of phaseless Holy Land, Pan Hong and Tai Shu Kong's attention fell on the two peak emperors. Kill. Since they had seen it, Qinyu naturally would not leave them alive. The suppression of the heaven-refining divine cauldron immediately swept out, and Pan Hong and Tai Shu Kong immediately attacked together. You are Shen Feng? Seeing Qin Yu flying over with the immortal spirit grass in his hand, Shi Tiangang asked with uncertainty. It couldn't be helped, as Qin Yu's combat strength was too terrifying. One had to know that there were more than 10 peak emperors, and it was comparable to the foundation of Heavenly Imperial Palace. Chapter 559. Fortunately, I'm not too late. Sun Jiuxiao and the others had joined forces with Pan Hong and Tai Shu Kong to kill the two peak emperors. Qin Yu's appearance changed, and he returned to Shun Feng's appearance. There are other divine herbs in here. Seeing this, Shi Tiangang heaved a sigh of relief and quickly took out a Sumeru ring. At this time, Sun Jiuxiao and the other emperors from the Sky Emperor Palace also flew over. Sun Jiuxiao and Shi Yintian were fine, as they already knew about Qin Yu's identity as a reincarnator. However, the other sovereigns were extremely shocked. They all looked at Qin Yu with reverence in their eyes. This is not a place to stay for long. Let's leave this place first. Sun Jiuxiao said. The refinement of the immortal emperor pills was imminent. However, they had just experienced a great battle and needed a rest. Especially Shi Tiangang, who had most likely injured his source. Qin Yu nodded and put away the heaven-refining cauldron before immediately flying away from the lake. Qin Yu and the others hid in the depths of a barren mountain. Dragon Soul. After setting up barriers around the area, Qin Yu did not start refining the immortal emperor pills. Instead, he spoke to the Dragon Soul. Space-time mirage. The Dragon Soul quickly formed seals with both hands as a tyrannical space-time fluctuation spread out and seeped into the void. Immediately, a shocking scene appeared. A brand new void quickly became an immortal. Although it was only a few feet wide, Shi Tiangang, Sun Jiuxiao, and even Pan Hong and Tai Shu Kong were dumbfounded. This kind of profound spatial control was simply heaven-shaking. This was the new divine ability that the Dragon Soul had comprehended when it advanced to the Emperor Realm, the space-time mirage. I'll leave it to you, Qin Yu said to the Dragon Soul, Pan Hong, and Tai Shu Kong before directly entering the void. The Dragon Soul's hand seals changed, and the void immediately hid in the void. The Dragon Soul and the other two were like three divine guards, guarding three directions in the void. Shi Tiangang and the others sat cross-legged on the ground, seizing the time to recover from their injuries. As for the reason why Qin Yu entered the void, they also knew. The immortal qi of the immortal spiritual grass was too unique. Even if the immortal spirit grass was completely sealed, some special secret techniques could still detect the fluctuations of immortal qi. Therefore, entering the void space to refine the immortal emperor pills was the most appropriate method. Whoosh! After entering the void space, Qin Yu directly entered the ancient dragon god seal. Only the divine dragon, ancient seal, floated quietly in this void space. Not letting the divine dragon, ancient seal, be exposed was Qin Yu's real goal. After all, the immortal emperor pellet was a true immortal pellet. If he wanted to refine it, it would be impossible for him to succeed in just a few days. But now, there wasn't enough time for Qin Yu to refine it. No one knew if the ancient emperors outside would rush in on a whim. Therefore, Qin Yu must enter the divine dragon, ancient seal, and borrow the dragon soul's 20 times faster time flow. Refine. With a thought, the Medicine King's divine cauldron appeared. Qin Yu then took out Shi Tiangong's spatial ring. In the spatial ring, the rainbow immortal Qilin's blood, the desolate divine phoenix bone, and the 9 underworld yellow springs water appeared. The golden heaven incinerating fire burned in the Medicine King's divine cauldron. Qin Yu threw the 3 divine herbs into the cauldron in an orderly manner. Even the golden heaven incinerating fire took a full 4 months to completely refine the 3 divine herbs. Looking at the 3 balls of different colors, crystal clear and without any impurities, Qin Yu didn't put the immortal spirit grass in. Instead, he guided the immortal spirit grass's immortal qi spiritual liquid into the Medicine King's divine cauldron. The immortal spirit grass was a true immortal medicine. The majestic energy it contained far surpassed the other 3 divine herbs. Qin Yu naturally couldn't refine the immortal spirit grass with the 3 divine herbs directly. Qi. As the immortal spirit grass's immortal qi spiritual liquid merged with the 3 divine herbs' immortal qi spiritual liquid, an extremely special fluctuation was emitted from the Medicine King's divine cauldron. It can't be a pill tribulation, right? Qin Yu's brows twitched slightly. In his previous life, he had refined quite a number of divine and immortal pills. He knew that when some heaven-defying spiritual pills were refined, there would be a heavenly lightning tribulation. After thinking for a while, Qin Yu felt that there shouldn't be a heavenly lightning tribulation in this double void secret realm. Otherwise, the golden heaven incinerating dragon would be able to undergo a heavenly lightning tribulation. Under Qin Yu's wholehearted concentration, Qin Yu began to fuse. The 4 spiritual liquids in the Medicine King's divine cauldron were fusing at an extremely slow speed. The ratio of the 4 divine herbs had to reach a perfect balance before they could completely fuse into a pill. If there was a slight mistake, the cauldron would most likely explode. If it was an ordinary alchemist, even an emperor-level alchemist, they definitely wouldn't dare to refine all 3 divine herbs like Qin Yu did. For safety's sake, most alchemists would split and refine the same spiritual material. Although the effect of the medicine would be a little weak, if they failed, they could start all over again. 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. Under Qin Yu's continuous introduction of the immortal spiritual herbs, immortal qi spiritual liquid, the spiritual liquids of the 4 divine herbs finally fused completely and took the shape of a pill. Sizzle. At this time, the special fluctuation in the Medicine King's divine cauldron became more and more intense. This made Qin Yu secretly vigilant. It seemed that the heavenly lightning tribulation of the immortal emperor pill was very likely unable to be concealed even in this double void secret realm. At this time, in the barren mountain, the dragon soul, who was on high alert, suddenly changed its expression. What's wrong? Pam Hong and Taishu Kong looked at the dragon soul together. Shi Tiangang and the rest of the Sky Emperor Palace also looked over. Retreat quickly. After sensing for a while, the dragon soul's expression suddenly changed, and it immediately flew away with Pam Hong and the rest. Boom! Pam Hong, Taishu Kong, Shi Tiangang, and the rest were a little confused. In the void where Qin Yu had disappeared, an earth-shattering explosion sounded, and a fluctuation that seemed to be able to destroy heaven and earth exploded. In an instant, the barren mountain completely disappeared. If the dragon soul and the rest had reacted a little slower, they would have definitely been affected. Rumble. Immediately after, a terrifying sound of thunder rang out, and the sky immediately turned pitch black. The shocking scene of lightning and thunder immediately appeared. The terrifying pressure that seemed to even freeze the air made it difficult for them to breathe. Seeing this scene, Shi Tiangang was stunned for a moment, and his face suddenly became wild with joy. The heavenly lightning tribulation of the formation pill. Master, you succeeded so quickly? Pam Hong and Tai Shu Kong also recognized it. Since the heavenly lightning tribulation of the formation pill had appeared, it meant that Qin Yu had succeeded in refining the pill. Next, he just needed to pass the heavenly lightning tribulation. Heaven refining divine cauldron. In the void, Qin Yu did not take out the array that he had used to prevent the heavenly lightning tribulation. Instead, he directly took out the heaven refining divine cauldron. There was no reason not to use a ready-made divine weapon. Rumble. In the next moment, the lightning in the sky suddenly struck. The target of all the lightning was the immortal emperor pill that was covered by the heaven refining divine cauldron. This is heavenly lightning tribulation. When the heavenly lightning tribulation appeared, outside the double void secret realm, Emperor Luan, Emperor God Xianyu, Great Eye Lord, and the rest of the ancient emperors who were meditating felt something. Chapter 560. No, this fluctuation, this seems to be the pill tribulation. Could it be that an immortal pill is forming in this sealed world? Northern Emperor Luan and the others were indeed ancient emperors. They immediately realized that it was the pill formation tribulation. They looked at each other. Obviously, they were tempted, but they did not make a move. With their cultivation, if they were to make a move, this dual void secret realm might collapse. At that time, no one would be able to get the immortal spirit herbs and other treasures. It would be better to let the cultivators fight for them. Lightning tribulation? This dual void secret realm shouldn't have heaven and earth lightning tribulation. Could it be that some treasure is about to appear? Let's go and take a look. In the sealed world, countless Emperor Realm cultivators who were searching for the immortal spirit herbs also sensed the lightning tribulation. Although there was no fluctuation of the immortal spirit herbs, many Emperor Realm cultivators immediately rushed over. After all, not all forces were here for the immortal spirit herbs. Some forces knew that they could not get the immortal spirit herbs, so they went straight for other treasures. Refine. At this time, the immortal Emperor Pill's lightning tribulation was almost over. Qin Yu took out the heaven refining cauldron and refined the lightning into lightning energy for the purple lightning divine firmament dragon to absorb and strengthen its cultivation. Palace Master Shi, you should still remember the refining method of the immortal Emperor Pill, right? Qin Yu kept the heaven refining cauldron and handed the immortal Emperor Pill, which was covered in pill veins and surrounded by immortal qi, to Shi Tiangang. Of course, Shi Tiangang could not hide his excitement. He took the immortal Emperor Pill like it was a treasure. Although there was only one immortal Emperor Pill, only one of the descendants of the three emperors could consume it and reignite their bloodline power. Then, they could use a secret technique to reignite the bloodline power of the other descendants of the three emperors. Sun Jiuxiao, Shi Tianyun, and the others were also very excited. Although they had paid a huge price to come to the middle ground sacred realm, it had come to a successful conclusion. If that's the case, I will take my leave. Be careful, Qin Yu said. In the future, if you need my heavenly imperial palace's help, we will do it. Shi Tiangang was not surprised. When Qin Yu called him Palace Lord Shi Tiangang knew that Qin Yu would not return to Sky Imperial Palace. Although Qin Yu had obtained the divine abilities of the three sovereigns, refining the immortal Emperor Pill was equivalent to giving the descendants of the three sovereigns a chance to be reborn. The glory of the three sovereigns who ruled over the ancient times would definitely reappear on their bodies. Don't worry. If something really happens, I won't hold back. Qin Yu glanced at Shi Tiangang and the others before turning around and walking towards Long Hun and the others. Truth be told, The reason why Qin Yu helped the Imperial Palace of Heaven was not only because he had obtained the legacy of the Imperial Palace of Heaven. Another reason was because Shi Tiangang and the others possessed enormous potential. Although his combat strength was not strong enough now, it was hard to say in the future. Having an ally with great potential was definitely not a bad thing for Qin Yu. Immediately, Qin Yu took the three of them and flew away. Let's find a place to refine the Immortal Emperor pills. Shi Tiangang did not hesitate and immediately left with Sun Jiuxiao, Shi Tianyun, and the others. Now it's time to move. After leaving Sister Dan's area, Long Hun asked Qin Yu, "The proper business is done. It's time to move." Qin Yu nodded slightly, a cold light flashing in his eyes. Pan Hong and Tai Shu Kong did not know what Qin Yu and Long Hun were talking about, so they both looked at Long Hun. "Hunt down the people of the 12 ancient emperors." Long Hun's voice was cold. Before entering the secret realm, Qin Yu already had this idea. Although it was difficult for a top-notch sovereign to deal with the 12 ancient emperors, it would not cause any serious damage. However, since there was an opportunity to weaken their forces, Qin Yu naturally would not let it go. Pan Hong and Tai Shu Kong's killing intent surged when they heard that. "Spread out. Send out the signal when you find them." In the void, Qin Yu said to Pan Hong and Tai Shu Kong. The three of them immediately split up to carry out their tasks. However, not long after flying out, Qin Yu's expression suddenly changed. With a thought, the skeleton Ghost King appeared. After devouring the Emperor Blood Chi of the profound Feather Divine Dynasty and the Phaseless Sacred Land, the skeleton Ghost King officially advanced to the 8th grade Emperor realm. However, its physique did not continue to grow. Its bones continued to solidify and strengthen, and its height was only 2 meters tall. In addition, flesh and blood grew on its body, and it looked no different from an ordinary cultivator. Although the skeleton Ghost King had flesh and blood, its eyes and aura had not changed at all. In Qin Yu's view, the flesh and blood that the skeleton Ghost King had grown was more like a cover for the desolate beast marks on its bones. "You don't want to stay in the Sumeru ring anymore?" Qin Yu and the skeleton Ghost King had a contract, so he naturally understood what it meant. After thinking about it, Qin Yu agreed to let the skeleton Ghost King follow him in this form. After all, the skeleton Ghost King had now reached the 8th grade Emperor realm and had enough power to protect itself. Found it. After flying for more than 4 hours, Qin Yu's eyes lit up. Not long after, Qin Yu appeared in a barren area. In that area, a chaotic battle was taking place. 19 Emperor Realm Masters were fighting over a 10,000-year sane herb. 4 symbols Tao sect. Qin Yu hid in the dark and observed. Among those emperors, there were 12 top emperors. They were Qin Yu's enemies in his previous life, one of the 12 ancient emperors, the 4 symbols Tao Emperor. The opponents of the 4 symbols Tao sect and the other emperors were also from a great force in the central continent, the profound Cloud Holy Land. However, the 4 symbols Tao Emperor and the others had an absolute advantage in numbers, and the emperors of the profound Cloud Holy Land were completely suppressed. As expected, the 10,000-year sane herb would fall into the hands of the 4 symbols Tao sect and the others. After watching for a while, Qin Yu quietly left. He stopped at a place 100 miles away from where he was. Wong wong wong. Qin Yu waved his right hand, and several array flags flew into the sky and merged into the surrounding void. Then, 2 teleportation talismans burned. In the next moment, 2 teleportation arrays appeared around Qin Yu. Pan Hong and Tai Shu Kong had teleported over. All 3 of them had teleportation talismans on them. Whoever discovered the target just needed to use a secret technique to teleport over immediately. Get ready to move. After the arrangement was completed, the sealed immortal spirit herb appeared in Qin Yu's hand. The dragon's soul, Pan Hong, Tai Shu Kong, and the skeleton Ghost King all disappeared into the void. Disperse. Qin Yu immediately dispersed the seal on the immortal spirit herb. A vast wave of immortal chi swept out like a hurricane. In an instant, All the Emperor realm masters within a few thousand kilometers felt the immortal spirit herb's fluctuation. The fish has taken a bait. Sensing the fluctuation of the four symbols Tao sect and the others, Qin Yu's eyes flashed coldly, and he quietly disappeared. Only the immortal spirit herb floated quietly in the air. Xiao 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 xiao. After familiarizing himself with the time, the sound of something breaking through the air came from all directions. Those people were the four symbols Tao sect and the profound cloud Holy Land, who were fighting for the 10,000-year Saint Herb. They were the closest to this place, so naturally they arrived faster. Chapter 561. It's really an immortal spirit herb. The immortal spirit herb exuded a dense mist-like, immortal qi in the void. The eyes of the Emperor realm masters from the four symbols Taoist sect lit up as they were overjoyed. They had not expected that the immortal spirit herb that they had been searching for so long would appear here. Quick, seal it. Don't let it escape. Seeing that the immortal spirit herb seemed to be frightened and showed signs of escaping, the four symbols Taoist sect's people immediately flew over. Go! The Emperor realm masters from the profound cloud sacred ground also rushed out without hesitation. You're courting death. Stop them. The leader of the four symbols Taoist sect's people was a white-haired old man in a Taoist robe. When he saw the profound cloud sacred ground's people intervening, a ruthless and gloomy look appeared in his eyes as he spoke with murderous intent. Immediately, 5 top-notch Emperor realm masters from the four symbols Holy Land attacked the profound cloud sacred grounds people. A violent battle that could destroy heaven and earth appeared again. The earth cracked and the sky changed color. Got it. The white-haired old man appeared in front of the immortal spirit herb in an instant. He was so excited that his body trembled. He immediately cast a secret technique to seal the immortal spirit herb. However, in the next moment, a scene that shocked the four symbols Taoist sect's people appeared. The immortal spirit herb that was sealed by the secret technique turned into bubbles and disappeared before their eyes. The four symbols Taoist sect's people did not know what was going on. Rumble. That is the heaven refining cauldron? North Emperor Luan's divine weapon. Damn it. What's going on? The Emperor realm masters from the four symbols Taoist sect and the profound cloud sacred ground, who were fighting fiercely, could not help but stop when they felt the supreme pressure that made their souls tremble. They looked up and saw a giant cauldron that covered the sky that had turned into a sea of flames. The giant fire cauldron was like an ancient god that could suppress the 9 heavens and 10 earths. North Emperor sect. The white-haired old man in a Taoist robe revealed a look of realization. The only ones who could control the heaven-refining divine cauldron, other than Northern Emperor Luan, were the martial artists of Northern Qing sect. Suddenly, a monstrous killing intent swept out. The people from the four symbols Taoist gate and the profound cloud sacred ground all looked over. In the sea of flames in the heaven-refining divine cauldron, several figures appeared and stared at them with cold, killing intent. That's the burning god emperor, Li Fenchen. The eyes of the white-haired old man in Taoist robes lit up when he saw a person with a mighty aura among the group of people. He immediately recognized this person. The burning god emperor, Li Fenchen, was the disciple of Northern Emperor Luan. The disappearance of the immortal spiritual grass was caused by Qing-based sect. The people from the four symbols Taoist sect were not the only ones who recognized Li Fenchen. The sovereigns from the Xian, Yun Holy Land also recognized him. This dual void secret realm was discovered by our sect's Grand Emperor, so the immortal spirit herb naturally belongs to our Qing-based sect. You ants actually want to get your hands on it? You really don't know the meaning of death. As if to confirm the thoughts in their hearts, the leader, Li Fenchen, spoke coldly. As he spoke, he moved his right hand, and the sealed, immortal spiritual grass appeared. Needless to say, this Li Fenchen was Qin Yu in disguise. The few sovereigns from the Qing-Bei sect beside Qin Yu were Long Hun, Pan Hong, Tai Shu Kong, and the Skeleton Ghost King. Die! Without waiting for the people from the Four Symbols Taoist sect and the profound cloud sacred ground to speak, Qin Yu imitated Li Finchen's appearance and charged out with Long Hun and the others. "Oomph. Do you think you can deal with us just because you have an ancient divine weapon in your hands? Great. Let's kill them and take the immortal spirit herb." The white-haired old man in Taoist robes and the other sovereigns from the Four Symbols Taoist sect were enraged when they saw the people from the Qingbei sect being so arrogant. Berserk and terrifying Taoist technique energy burst forth, rushing toward Qin Yu and the others. Seeing the battle between the Four Symbols Taoist sect and the Qingbei sect, the people from the profound cloud sacred ground and the others were not in a hurry to make a move. If both sides suffered heavy losses, they naturally did not mind reaping the benefits. "Let's act according to plan." A cold smile appeared on the corner of Qin Yu's mouth. The profound formation patterns on his palm were slightly trembling. Immediately, the mysterious array flags that had been set up in the void rumbled and appeared, forming an ancient divine array that covered the sky. Item manipulation technique. Unseal. At the same time, Qin Yu formed a seal with his hands, and the seal on the heaven refining cauldron was completely unsealed. A vast pressure that could shatter the heavens and earth descended. The pressure is so terrifying. The sovereigns from the Four Symbols Taoist sect, who were originally filled with murderous intent, were all shocked. The pressure of the heaven refining cauldron was far beyond their expectations. Under such pressure, their combat strength was reduced by at least 30 to 40%. The divine weapon has been completely unsealed? How is this possible? As a major force with an ancient emperor, the sovereigns from the Four Symbols Taoist sect naturally knew that the power of the heaven refining cauldron had been completely unsealed. That was why the sovereigns from the Four Symbols Taoist sect were so shocked, because this was something that only an ancient emperor expert could do. Rumble. Qin Yu and the others ignored the shock of the Four Symbols Taoist sect's people and continued to attack. Under the combined pressure of the heaven refining cauldron and the sky shrouding ancient town, the Four Symbols Taoist sect's people were immediately dealt a devastating blow. This scene was not much different from the destruction of the Xuanyu Divine Dynasty's people. In fact, it was even more thorough. After all, compared to the situation when they were dealing with the Xuanyu Divine Dynasty's people, Qin Yu and the others now had the absolute advantage and had made many preparations in advance. The battle strength of the Qingbei sect's people is so terrifying. Have they reached the level of divine sovereigns? It's an ancient divine weapon. They can completely unseal the power of the divine weapon. The sovereigns from the mystic domain sacred land and the other sovereigns who had wanted to take advantage of the situation saw the Four Symbols Taoist sect's people being slaughtered like chickens and ducks. They all stared blankly, their faces pale, and cold sweat dripped down their faces. "Quick, think of a way to leave now." The Four Symbols Taoist sect's people, who had been suppressing them, fell one after another at the hands of Qin Yu and the others. The leader of the profound cloud, sacred lands, peak sovereigns came back to his senses and immediately ordered. From the looks of it, it was only a matter of time before the Four Symbols Taoist sect's people were wiped out. When the Four Symbols Taoist sect's people were wiped out, it would be their turn. The profound cloud, sacred lands, people immediately spread out and searched for a way to escape from the heaven refining cauldron. Soon, the profound cloud, sacred lands, people silently disappeared from the heaven refining cauldron. They have already left. We can go all out now. Controlling the heaven refining cauldron, Qin Yu used the heaven refining cauldron, mixed the ancient divine power with the golden flame heaven incinerating fire, and used the divine fire palm to severely injure a peak sovereign. Seeing the profound cloud, sacred lands people leave, Xiao Qin's expression did not change at all. He even smiled. Everything was going according to his plan. Chapter 562. Roar. The dragon soul was the first to erupt as it let out a deafening roar. The bloodthirsty slaughter prison erupted as a sea of blood engulfed the members of the Four Symbols Taoist sects. The Skeleton Ghost King's reaction wasn't slow either, as he used the boundless 10,000 beasts. Countless wild beast phantoms swept across the sky and shook the heavens and earth. Pan Hong and Tai Shu Kong also used their strongest moves. Their silver halberds stirred up the wind and clouds, as their sharp sword intent wreaked havoc and destruction. Qin Yu and the others went all out. The white-haired old man and the other members of the Four Symbols Taoist sects suffered heavy injuries once again and were in an even more dangerous situation. These aren't divine abilities or secret techniques of Northern Qing sect. Only now did the white-haired old man realize that Qin Yu and the others weren't cultivators of Northern Qing sect. This made them extremely shocked, as they didn't know what was going on. After all, Qin Yu and the others were controlling the heaven refining divine cauldron. Rumble. Qin Yu and the others didn't care about the shock of the members of the Four Symbols Taoist sects as they unleashed their killing moves one after another. Not long after, the members of the Four Symbols Taoist sects were all killed by them. It's about time to leave. After the battle ended, Qin Yu put away the five gods' heaven subduing array and the heaven refining divine cauldron. At this moment, thousands of Emperor Realm Masters were approaching from all directions. Relying on the concealment of the illusory array, Qin Yu and the others disappeared through the teleportation array. There are indeed immortal spirit grass fluctuations here. Apart from that, there are also the remnant auras of more than 20 peak Emperor Realm Masters. Damn it, someone beat us to it. Who exactly is it? As the divine might spread, the heaven-refining divine cauldron that covered the sky disappeared. The Emperor Realm Masters who sensed the fluctuations of the immortal spirit grass and gathered here quickly came to the place where Qin Yu killed the members of the Four Symbols Taoist sects. However, other than the incomparably messy earth and the chaotic and destroyed void, they were destined to not discover anything. The news that the immortal spirit grass had been snatched quickly spread through the dual void-sealed world. This made the forces with ancient Emperor Realm Masters take action immediately. They wanted to know which force to find the immortal spirit grass. However, after half a day, a shocking piece of news came. He controlled the Northern Sect, controlled the ancient divine weapon, killed more than 10 venerable sovereigns of the Four Symbols sect, and stole the immortal spirit grass. This news swept across the entire dual void secret realm like a tornado. Countless Emperor Realm Masters set out to search for Qing Bei sect's people. Of course, this news came from profound cloud holy land, so naturally, many Emperor Realm Masters doubted its authenticity. After all, it wasn't very credible to say that he wielded an ancient divine weapon and killed more than 10 top-notch experts. Even the sovereign venerables like the Crimson Moon Spiritual Sect, which was comparable to the Four Symbols Tao Gate, were killed by the heavenly, refining divine cauldron. Moreover, several great powers had witnessed it with their own eyes. Only then did the sovereign of this dual void secret realm confirm that the burning god sovereign, Li Fengtian, was in control of the North Monarch of Chaos and the heaven refining divine cauldron. He had annihilated several major forces that were trying to get their hands on the immortal spiritual herbs. All the major forces that were targeted by Li Fengtian were basically annihilated. On the contrary, many of the scattered venerable sovereigns did not kill the people of the Northern Sect. Countless forces in the secret realm thought that Qing Bei sect was killing the chicken to warn the monkey. Those who dared to covet the immortal spiritual herbs would die without a burial place. However, this did not deter the top-notch venerable sovereigns. Many venerable sovereigns even formed an alliance to suppress the people of the Northern Sect. 3 days later, at the peak of a towering mountain. Now, there are only 3 great forces left. Ghost Emperor Jintian, Great Sun Heavenly Emperor, and Monster Saint Wang Di, right? The dragon soul came out of the bloodthirsty heavenly dragon's body and said to Qin Yu. Around them, there were many dried-up remains, and a strong smell of blood permeated the air. Obviously, a great battle had just taken place here. If there were people from the central continent here, they would definitely recognize them. Those people were from Point Star Orthodoxy, one of the Central Continent's top forces. Point Star Orthodoxy was the supreme orthodoxy where the seven-star ancient emperor was from. Let's ignore the great sun heavenly emperor and monster Saint Wang Di for now. Next, we will prepare to leave after we destroy the people of Ghost Emperor Holy Island. Qin Yu said slowly. In these 3 days, among the 11 ancient emperor forces, 8 of them had emperor realm masters. Qin Yu used the aura of the immortal spirit grass as bait to lure them. But until now, all the emperor realm forces in the dual void-sealed world believed that the ancient emperor was the culprit. The northern sect was the one who took the immortal spirit grass and killed the 4 symbols Tao sect, Point Star Orthodoxy, and other forces. With the heaven refining divine cauldron, the symbolic divine artifact of a northern sect, Li Finshin and the others, who had died long ago, were the perfect scapegoats. This was also the reason why Qin Yu seized the heaven refining divine cauldron. Originally, he just wanted to secretly eliminate the forces of the 12 ancient emperors. But after seeing the heaven refining divine cauldron, Qin Yu changed his plan. That was why Qin Yu let the people of Xian Yun Holy Land go that day. Otherwise, with his control, the people of Xian Yun Holy Land would never be able to escape. Why? The great sun, heavenly emperor, and monster Saint Wang Di don't have many people, so they can attack. Long Hun and Pan Hong both looked at Qin Yu puzzled. If the forces of the 12 ancient emperors all die in this sealed world, I'm afraid it will arouse suspicion. As for who would be suspicious, it would naturally be Star Luo and the 12 ancient emperors. After all, some coincidences couldn't be too much. If they alerted the enemy, the gains wouldn't make up for the losses. Buzz! Buzz! At this moment, Qin Yu felt the teleportation talisman in his hand tremble slightly. Shao Kong has found the people of Ghost Emperor Holy Island. Qin Yu's eyes lit up. He tapped the ground with his right hand, and a large teleportation array appeared. As the light of the teleportation array flickered, all of them immediately disappeared. Master, the people of Ghost Emperor Holy Island are just ahead. In a spacious stone cave, Tai Shu Kong led Qin Yu and the others to a remote valley where the void was obviously chaotic. In the 1,000-mile-wide valley, there were many figures. They were the people of Ghost Emperor Holy Island. What were they doing? Pan Hong asked curiously when he saw the people of Ghost Emperor Holy Island teleporting back and forth in the center of the primordial era. It seemed like they were deploying something. I don't know either. Tai Shu Kong shook his head slightly. In order to avoid being detected, he didn't sneak closer to investigate. Qin Yu's eyes narrowed. There was a faint divine light in his eyes as he carefully sized up the people of Ghost Emperor Holy Island. Immediately, Qin Yu's eyes flashed with a strange light. He seemed to have discovered something. They seemed to be deploying an array, and it seems to be resonating with the spatial fluctuations in the void. Long Hun said to Qin Yu after sensing it for a while. This is the immortal ancient teleportation array. After looking at it for a while, Qin Yu confirmed it. Immortal ancient teleportation array. Long Hun, Pan Hong, and Tai Shu Kong were all puzzled. They naturally knew about the teleportation array, but this was the first time they had heard of the immortal ancient teleportation array. Chapter 563. The immortal ancient teleportation array was used by the ancient immortals in the primordial age. They want to use this array to teleport the people from the Ghost Emperor's sacred island directly. Qin Yu explained. To be honest, Qin Yu had only read about the immortal ancient teleportation array in a primordial secret book. It was his first time seeing a real immortal ancient teleportation array. The Ghost Emperor's sacred island even had such a divine array. Their foundation was really amazing. This double void secret realm can teleport people in and out directly. The Dragon Soul and the other 2 were shocked. Emperor Wan and the other ancient emperors were guarding it to prevent the divine emperors and ancient emperors from escaping. If this secret realm could teleport people in and out, it would be meaningless for them to guard the entrance. We have to stop them. If Ghost Emperor Zhen Tian teleports here, it will be troublesome. Pan Hong and Tai Shu Kong's faces changed slightly. Among the many ancient emperors, Ghost Emperor Jin was definitely one of the strongest. This could be seen from the fact that Ghost Emperor Jin could compete with Qin Yu in his previous life. If Ghost Emperor Jin was not strong enough, he would have been killed by Qin Yu in his previous life. No, this is a great opportunity. Qin Yu's eyes flashed coldly. If Ghost Emperor Jun Tian teleported here, it would be a good thing for Qin Yu. With Qin Yu's current cultivation, he would have no chance of winning if he faced Ghost Emperor Jin Tian directly. However, if they had made arrangements in advance and were in such a geographical location, the situation would be completely different. Hearing Qin Yu's words, not only Pan Hong and Tai Shu Kong, but even the Dragon Soul, who knew Qin Yu well, was surprised. There was a saying in the heaven domain: only ancient emperors could kill ancient emperors. If Qin Yu wanted to kill ancient emperors with the strength of a peak emperor, they would definitely scoff at it. But Qin Yu is different. Since Qin Yu said so, he must have a countermeasure. The situation was just as the Dragon Soul trio had expected. Qin Yu really had an idea in his heart. Immediately, Qin Yu told the three of them about the plan in detail. The sovereigns of the Ghost Emperor's sacred island were about to finish setting up the array. Time was of the essence, and Dragon Soul's trio did not have the time to make any deductions. After hearing Qin Yu's words, they immediately set out to deploy. How is it? At this moment, the Ghost Emperor Holy Island and the others who had finished setting up the array had already gathered in the center of the valley. The leader of the group was a red-haired man. His muscles were like dragons, and he exuded a terrifying power that could suppress one's soul. The formation has been completed, a peak Emperor Realm Master said. Then prepare to activate the teleportation array. Hearing this, the red-haired man took out an ancient token. As the Tao, art, and true essence fused into it, the restriction on the ancient token was broken. A dark speck of light appeared on the ancient token and disappeared in an instant. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Not long after, the ancient token immediately trembled slightly, and mysterious runes filled the air. The red-haired man's eyes suddenly lit up, and he quickly threw the ancient token into the immortal ancient teleportation array. Immediately, beams of mysterious light were emitted from the ancient token. Each beam of light was connected to a point in the immortal ancient teleportation array. Activate the array. In the next moment, the red-haired man's hands formed a seal as he shouted. The vast true essence in his body swept up the power of the Tao art and poured into the immortal ancient teleportation array. The other sovereigns of the Ghost Emperor's sacred island also took action. The mysterious runes on the immortal ancient teleportation array lit up with dazzling divine light. Swish, swish, swish. Soon, figures flew out from the teleportation portal. There were more than 100 of them. Among those who were teleported, the 10 leaders had surpassed the peak sovereigns and entered the divine sovereign realm. There were no divine sovereigns in the spiritual state, but the Ghost Emperor's sacred island had 10 of them. One could imagine how terrifying the Ghost Emperor's sacred island's foundation was. These divine sovereigns were the main reason why the Ghost Emperor's sacred island could stand tall in the central state. What's the situation now? The divine sovereigns asked immediately after they were teleported. Elder, according to the accurate information, the immortal spirit grass has fallen into the hands of the northern sect. The red-haired man said respectfully. Although there was only a slight difference between a peak sovereign realm and a divine sovereign realm, there was a tremendous difference in strength and status. Where are the northern sect's people? A young-looking man with a weathered look in his eyes asked. They should still be in the secret realm now. The red-haired man said. Should? The divine sovereigns frowned. The northern sect's people have been plundering the treasures in the secret realm because they have an ancient divine weapon. Although their whereabouts are unknown now, they should still be in the secret realm. Someone saw them yesterday. The red-haired man quickly replied. Find them immediately. We have to leave before the northern sect's people react. Otherwise, all our efforts will be in vain if we attract their attention. The divine sovereigns of the Ghost Emperor's sacred island said, as they prepared to leave the valley. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Suddenly, a dazzling light beam fell from the sky like a meteor shower, forming a huge array that covered the sky. The entire valley was immediately enveloped by it. Who is it? The divine sovereigns of the Ghost Emperor's sacred island immediately reacted. Someone was secretly targeting them. This caused the divine sovereigns to be filled with murderous intent. This fluctuation, but in the next moment, the man with the weathered eyes looked surprised. He looked over and saw an ancient divine cauldron surrounded by flames, slowly rotating and falling somewhere in the huge ancient array that covered the sky. It's the heaven refining divine cauldron. That means the northern sex people are attacking us. The divine sovereigns recognized the heaven refining divine cauldron at a glance. Oh no! But then, the man with the weathered eyes seemed to have sensed something. His expression changed drastically as he quickly looked around the void. Unbeknownst to them, the space in the valley they were in had become distorted. The extremely unstable spatial fluctuations could even be seen with the naked eye. This void is going to collapse. Retreat. The man with the weathered eyes quickly shouted, informing the people of the Ghost Emperor's sacred island to prepare to retreat. Boom! But almost at the same time, an earth-shattering explosion resounded. A destructive fluctuation swept out from the heaven refining divine cauldron surrounded by flames. Immediately, spatial cracks appeared in the void with the heaven refining divine cauldron as the center. Those cracks were like a spider web, quickly spreading in all directions and filling the entire void of the valley in an instant. Damn it, the weathered man, who was about to fly away, had an extremely ugly look on his face. He stopped in midair, not daring to move at all. The void around him was filled with countless spatial cracks. It was as if the entire space in this valley would collapse and be destroyed if he touched it lightly. Chapter 564. Break. When the valley was filled with countless spatial cracks, a soft shout suddenly sounded. The ancient runes on the heaven refining divine cauldron suddenly exploded, and raging flames swept out like a river. In the next moment, the spatial cracks in the valley were filled with raging flames. Immediately, under the horrified gazes of the divine sovereigns and peak sovereigns from the Ghost Emperor Holy Island, the spatial cracks that were filled with flames suddenly shattered. The valley, which was thousands of miles wide, turned into a pitch-black void turbulence. Directly broke the secret realm's spatial wall. The Ghost Emperor Holy Island and the others who were trapped in the void turbulence froze in horror. This double void secret realm was already extremely unstable, and now the spatial wall was broken. If something went wrong, the entire secret realm would collapse completely. Do you think you can deal with us with this method? Heaven's suppressing talisman. The man with the weathered eyes and the other divine sovereigns all performed their ultimate moves. The 10 of them each took out a pitch-black ancient talisman surrounded by ghostly runes. When the ancient talisman was crushed, a vast and unparalleled emperor's aura spread out. A phantom that was hundreds of feet tall shielded all of them. The emperor's aura contained in the phantom was as shocking as it was real. Even the chaotic streams of space couldn't shake it in the slightest. It was a power that was above the chaotic void turbulence. What a pity. This was originally a gift for the heaven-suppressing Ghost Emperor. Outside the valley, Qin Yu saw the broken immortal ancient teleportation array and knew that the heaven-suppressing Ghost Emperor would not come. Crack! Immediately, Qin Yu formed a seal with both hands, and a vast divine power fluctuation appeared in the heaven refining divine cauldron. Clear cracks appeared on the heaven refining divine cauldron. Could it be? At this moment, even the 10 divine sovereigns' eyes were filled with fear. The cracks on the heaven refining divine cauldron had already made them guess what was going to happen next. Boom! Sure enough, an earth-shattering explosion sounded. The heaven refining divine cauldron exploded, and a destructive wave swept through the void of the entire valley. The originally dark and chaotic void turbulence had completely turned into a sea of flames. The phantom image that the Ghost Emperor, Holy Island, and the others had set up shattered instantly. All of them were covered by the surging flames, and not a single trace of them could be seen. Go! Seeing this, Chinyu immediately took out a teleportation talisman and teleported away with the Dragon Soul Trio. Rumble. Almost at the same time, Chinyu's group of 4 teleported away. A rolling sea of fire covered the sky and covered the earth. The divine array that Chinyu had set up in the valley was immediately shattered, and the raging flames swept away. An area of several tens of thousands of li was completely destroyed. Countless creatures lost their lives, and the divine flames continued to burn for a long time. Even a divine emperor would not be able to withstand the power of an ancient divine weapons explosion, let alone a top-notch emperor. At the entrance of the dual void secret realm, several ancient emperors were sitting cross-legged. North Emperor Luan's body slightly trembled, and a trace of extremely unstable, chaotic energy came out of his body. Shock surfaced in North God Luan's eyes. Soon after, his face became extremely gloomy. The Heaven Refining Cauldron could be said to be his natal divine treasure. Now that the Heaven Refining Cauldron had exploded, it was impossible for him not to sense it. In fact, the explosion of the Heaven Refining Cauldron had caused him to suffer from a severe backlash, but he immediately suppressed it. Emperor God Xianyu, Emperor Taiyan, and the other ancient emperors could not help but look at North God Luan. Obviously, they had already noticed the abnormality in North God Luan. Whoosh! Without any hesitation, North God Luan immediately flashed and rushed toward the entrance of the secret realm. North God Luan, what are you trying to do? As a figure flashed, North God Luan was stopped. It was Emperor God Qianhe who had been guarding against North God Luan. Get out of my way. North God Luan's face was extremely gloomy. Monstrous killing intent erupted, and an extremely terrifying Tao power gathered. If it exploded, it would probably affect the entire holy region. Emperor God Qianhe sneered, and he was not afraid at all. A huge divine crane that covered the sky appeared behind him. The divine crane let out a clear cry, and it gave off an ancient divine aura. Seeing this, the divine emperors from both sides were on high alert. A war between the two sects was about to break out at any time. North God Luan, we have a prior agreement. Don't you think this is a little inappropriate? Emperor God Xianyu, Emperor Taiyan, Saint Master Pilheart, and the other ancient emperors stepped forward. There might be ancient emperors in the secret realm now. Looking at the numerous ancient emperors on the same battlefront, North Emperor Luan could only suppress his murderous intent, no matter how strong it was. He was not afraid of Emperor God Qianhe, but he could not take on several ancient emperors alone. Ancient emperors? Emperor God Xianyu, Emperor Taiyan, and the other ancient emperors were shocked. The secret realm's entrance is not only protected by a barrier, but also guarded by us. Even ancient emperors of the same level would not be able to sneak in. Emperor God Qian, he said coldly. Emperor God Qianhe is right. Emperor God Xianyu and the others nodded. My Qingbei sect's people have all been killed. North God Luan's face darkened. Surprise flashed across the eyes of Sir God Qianhe, Emperor God Xianyu, and Emperor Taiyan. They naturally knew how many top sovereigns from Qingbei's sect had infiltrated the secret realm. Even an ordinary divine emperor would not be able to wipe out all of Qingbei's sect's people. It should be noted that a divine emperor could easily defeat or even kill a top-notch emperor without much effort. But to kill a large number of top sovereigns, one would have to set up a trap and trap everyone inside. Based on this, you are saying that ancient emperors have infiltrated the secret realm. Aren't you taking it too lightly? Can it be that your Qingbei sect's people were too weak and were wiped out? Emperor God Qianhe sneered. Looking at North God Luan's expression, something must have happened to Qingbei sect's people. However, it was a good thing that Qingbei's sect had been wiped out. This meant that one of the strong competitors for the immortal spirit herb had been eliminated. Emperor God Xianyu and the others did not speak, but they were also suspicious. North God Luan wanted to infiltrate the secret realm because he knew that no one would be able to compete for the immortal spirit herb. Before entering the secret realm, I handed the heaven refining cauldron to my disciple, but it was destroyed just now. North God Luan said with murderous intent, "Even if you are not afraid of your people, aren't you worried that the immortal spirit herb will be taken away?" The heaven refining cauldron was destroyed? Hearing North God Luan's words, they recalled the chaotic fluctuation that had appeared on North God Luan. Emperor God Xianyu, Emperor Taiyin, and even Emperor God Qian He were shocked. If what North God Luan said was true, then an ancient emperor might have entered the secret realm. One had to know that only an ancient emperor could destroy an ancient divine weapon. Chapter 565. Let's go in and take a look. Emperor God Xuanyu, Emperor Taiyin, and the others looked at each other and made their decision. Just as Emperor Luan had said, they did not care about the lives of the top-tier sovereigns. However, they could not afford to lose the immortal spirit herb. Even Emperor God Qian, he had no objections. Immediately, the ancient emperors led their divine sovereigns into the secret realm. Soon, Emperor Luan sensed the heaven-refining cauldron and came to the valley that had turned into spatial turbulence. As expected, Emperor Luan looked at the divine fire that burned for tens of thousands of miles. His murderous intent almost solidified, and even the air seemed to be frozen. "Master, there's half a talisman here." A divine emperor seemed to have discovered something and shot over from somewhere in the ancient era. "This is the aura of the ghost Emperor Zhentian." Emperor Luan took the talisman that had its ancient runes destroyed. After sensing it, his eyes narrowed. Could it be that the intruder was the ghost Emperor Zhentian? "Master, something bad has happened." Right at this moment, another divine emperor flew over from the distant horizon, looking anxious. What happened? Emperor Luan's eyes twitched. He did not get the immortal spear herb, and the heaven-refining cauldron was destroyed. Could there be something more serious than this? According to the news I just heard, Junior brother took the immortal spirit herb from the Four Symbols Taoist sect with the heaven-refining cauldron you gave him, the divine sovereign hurriedly said. Did the ghost Emperor Zhen Tian target him because of the immortal spirit herb? Emperor Luan muttered to himself, his eyes filled with murderous intent. I heard that Junior brother destroyed the Four Symbols Taoist sect, Xuanyu Divine Dynasty, Point Star Orthodoxy, and more than a dozen sovereigns after he got the immortal spirit herb. The divine sovereign said cautiously. Emperor Luan's face stiffened. This matter was completely out of his expectations. Even if it was for the immortal spirit herb, Li Finchen had made too many enemies for the northern sect. One had to know that the people behind these forces all had ancient emperors backing them. Whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, waves of tyrannical aura came from all directions. The wind and clouds pressed down, and the sky trembled. It was as if a tornado was coming. Qingbei's sect and the others were in the eye of the storm. North Emperor Luan's face darkened. Needless to say, he knew that Emperor God Xianyu, Emperor Dian, and the others were there to denounce him. Or rather, it could be said that the accusation was fake. The real reason was that they coveted the immortal spirit herbs. However, the immortal spirit herb had already been snatched away by Ghost Emperor Zhentian. Now, they only had this tattered, ancient talisman. Even if they told the truth, the ancient emperors might not believe them. At this moment, at the entrance of the mystic realm, ripples appeared in the void as four figures appeared. They were none other than Qin Yu, the Dragon Soul, Pan Hong, and Tai Shu Kong. They really did enter the secret realm. Looking at the entrance of the secret realm and the empty, sacred, ancient ruins, the Dragon's Soul laughed. The explosion of the heaven-refining divine cauldron had indeed attracted the attention of the North Emperor and the others. Everything was going according to Qin Yu's plan. Let's go. With a glance, Qin Yu immediately left with Dragon Soul and the other two. Although Luan Bei Di and the other forces had already entered the secret realm, there were still divine emperors in the Saint Region ancient ruins. The moment they appeared, Qin sensed no less than 10 secret techniques probing them. Fortunately, Qin had already placed the immortal spirit grass and Nine Suns divine flower into the divine dragon ancient seal. Let alone a divine emperor. Even an ancient emperor would not be able to sense the treasures in the divine dragon ancient seal. In less than a quarter of an hour, Qin had left the ruins of the Saint Realm and arrived at the border of the ninth divine realm in the central continent. At this point, Pam Hong and Tai Shu Kong were leading the way. They came to the middle continent from the east continent and the west continent, so they naturally had their own ways. 5 days later, rumble, rolling golden lightning gathered in the 9 heavens, covering a radius of 1,000 miles. It emitted a vast divine might of lightning, causing all living things to tremble in fear. In the rolling golden lightning, a huge dragon shadow was rolling, exuding a mighty dragon's might. It was the golden flame heavenly dragon undergoing the transformation lightning tribulation. Outside the golden lightning tribulation, the dragon's soul held the thunder-crossing immortal pill in its hand and quietly sensed the golden flame heavenly dragon's condition. As for Qin Yu, he was outside the lightning tribulation in a mountain range a few hundred feet away. Tai Shu Kong sat cross-legged in front of Qin Yu, while Pam Hong was vigilant around. Qin Yu was stripping Tai Shu Kong of the ancient divine power in his body. Even so, Tai Shu Kong's cultivation would be greatly weakened. However, with the sword domain heavenly killing manual taught by Qin Yu, it would not take long for him to recover his cultivation to the peak of the sovereign realm. Qin Yu and the other 3 had left the central continent and entered the border of the east continent. Qin Yu's purpose in coming to the east continent was not to immediately set up a plan to deal with the enemy forces in the east continent. It was for Long Hao. Pam Hong and Tai Shu sealed Long Hao, who was under the ghost curse, in the Netherworld Cold Cave. The Netherworld Cold Cave was in the east continent. In the past 5 days, the news of the immortal spirit herb in the Saint region of the central continent had spread throughout the 9 continents of the heaven realm. Until now, it was not clear which force the immortal spirit herb had fallen into. According to the forces that entered the secret realm, not only did the Qingbei sect snatch the immortal spirit herb, but they also used an ancient divine weapon to kill more than 10 sovereign realm experts who coveted the immortal spirit herb. The Qingbei sect said that the Sky Suppression Ghost Emperor had sneaked into the secret realm, snatched the immortal spirit herb, and destroyed the heaven refining divine cauldron. The Sky Suppression Ghost Emperor did not appear, but the experts of the Ghost Emperor Holy Island said that they were ambushed by the Qingbei sect and suffered heavy casualties. These forces that had ancient emperors leading them were always in conflict with each other. This had led to many conflicts between the cultivators under their sections. The atmosphere in the 9 divine regions of the central continent had become somewhat turbulent. Fortunately, there were ancient emperor experts to maintain order, so there was no major turmoil. There were only 2 groups of people who knew who had the immortal spirit herb. The first group was the Sky Imperial Palace, and the second group was Qin Yu and the others. However, the Sky Imperial Palace had left the secret realm early and returned to the spiritual state. After returning, they remained silent. Qin Yu and the others naturally would not expose their existence. The whereabouts of the immortal spirit herb had always been a mystery to the outside world. The earth-shattering golden lightning tribulation lasted for only half a day before it ended. With the help of the thunder-crossing immortal pill, the golden flame heaven incinerating dragon had completely passed the transformation tribulation. He had turned into a young man with golden fiery eyes, and his name was Fun Yu. On the other hand, Tai Shu Kong's divine power had been stripped away for 3 days and 3 nights before it completely ended. 2 days later, whoosh, 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 Qin Yu and the other 2 appeared on a snowy plain with bone-chilling winds. This plain was the famous cold plain of the East Continent. The cold ice here did not dissipate all year round and had lasted for several generations. It was a famous wonder in the East Continent. Chapter 566. Under Pam Hong's lead, Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul ventured deep into the Frost Ghost Plains. As for Taishu Kong, he had already left the East Continent and returned to the West Continent. First, he went into seclusion to cultivate and recover his cultivation. Secondly, he wanted to find out more about the situation in the Western Continent, especially about Qin Yu's enemies from his previous life, the Ancient Emperor. Qin Yu's expression changed slightly after he had traveled tens of thousands of miles deep into the cold plain. The Dragon Soul and Pan Hong instantly sensed this and looked in a certain direction in the cold, dark plains. Something is approaching. An ancient halberd appeared in Pan Hong's hand, and mysterious ancient runes appeared on the ancient armor on his body. No signs of life. After the Dragon Soul sensed it carefully, it said in a strange tone, "Could it be the legendary Dark Chill tribe?" Qin Yu's eyes flashed. Rumor had it that an ancient clan lived on the Ghastly Plains, and they were called the Ghastly Clan. There were even rumors that the Dark Frost tribe and the Dark Frost Plains were the same. Both of them were miraculous creatures that had appeared for several eras. Woo woo woo. Accompanied by the howling of the wind and snow, a snowstorm that blotted out the sky and covered the sun swept over, blocking people's vision. In that snowstorm, there was a faint, deep blue cold light that disappeared in a flash. Fluctuations that made people's hearts palpitate were emitted from that snowstorm. Looks like we've really run into them. Divine light gathered in Qin Yu's eyes as he saw through the blizzard. The cold blue lights flashing in the snowstorm were creatures that looked like humans, but were icy blue all over. They looked exactly the same as the Dark Cold tribe recorded in the ancient books. Whoosh, whoosh. As if they had sensed Qin Yu's presence, the frosty cold outsiders made their moves one after another. Long spears formed from cold ice pierced through the wind and snow, tearing through the void. It was as if 10,000 arrows had been fired at the same time, shooting towards Qin Yu and the other two from all directions. God's mad dance. Pan Hong's eyes flickered coldly. He soared into the sky and swung the ancient spear in his hand. A circle of blue light spread out like a Vajra barrier, blocking all the serene cold ice spears. Swoosh! Qin Yu's flesh and blood were filled with dragon tattoos, and a mighty dragon's might swept out. His figure flashed, and he directly rushed into the surrounding snowstorm. Whoosh! Whoosh! Seeing that Qin Yu was charging at them, the Frozen Nether Race's members all aimed their attacks at Qin Yu. Countless frozen nether spears appeared, heaven-devouring dragon seal. Qin Yu's gaze swept across the area. With a wave of his left hand, an ancient seal with a ferocious dragon head appeared. The dragon head opened its mouth and swallowed all of the serene, chill ice spears. With Qin Yu's current cultivation base, he was able to use the heaven-devouring dragon seal in the state of the azure dragon battling the heavens. Although the cultivation of those frozen nether tribe members was comparable to that of a top emperor, they were still easily devoured. Seal. The foreign races seemed to sense that something was wrong and wanted to retreat immediately. However, Qin Yu's figure pierced through the air with extreme speed as a terrifying space-time power spread out. The void within a radius of a few hundred feet seemed to have turned into a swamp, and the flow of time immediately slowed down by more than a few times. Sealing divine light appeared, and Qin Yu captured a frozen nether race member. Seeing this, the other frozen nether race members immediately exploded with a bang, turning into blue ice shards that merged into the snowstorm. Following the disappearance of the chilling foreign tribe members, the snowstorm that had gathered also quickly dissipated. Qin Yu and Pan Hong did not chase after them. They were both sizing up the sealed frozen nether race members. The frozen nether race members were indeed as recorded in the ancient books. Their entire bodies were formed from frozen nether ice, and they did not have any signs of life. However, their combat strength was extraordinary, and they were comparable to that of a high-level emperor. When they appeared in groups, even a top emperor would be in danger. After looking at them for a while, Qin Yu sent a wisp of his emperor soul into the frozen nether race member's body. Boom! Suddenly, a vast an unparalleled will came crashing down. That will was so terrifying that even Qin Yu's emperor's soul, which was at the level of an ancient emperor, could not contend against it. Fortunately, at the critical moment, the divine dragon ancient seal shook slightly and dissipated that terrifying will. What is that? Qin Yu withdrew his emperor's soul, and a look of shock flashed across his eyes. When the emperor's soul and the will collided, Qin Yu vaguely saw a ferocious beast that was as big as a mountain and exuded a chilling aura. What's wrong? The dragon ancient soul appeared and asked Qin Yu. Pan Hong also looked at Qin Yu. Nothing. Qin Yu shook his head slightly. He had only seen the frozen nether race for a moment, and Qin Yu could not tell what was going on. Immediately, Qin Yu and the other two headed towards the frozen nether cave again. At the end of the frozen nether plain, there was a huge mountain that was tens of thousands of miles wide. But suddenly, the huge mountain shook violently, and two chilling eyes that were as big as lakes appeared on the huge mountain. The huge mountain opened its eyes and looked in a certain direction of the frozen nether plain, then slowly closed its eyes again 4 hours later. Under Pan Hong's lead, Qin Yu and the dragon ancient soul finally arrived at the frozen nether cave. The frozen nether cave was an ancient cave that was hundreds of feet wide. The chilling aura inside was more than 10 times thicker than the frozen nether plain. One should know that this was only the entrance of the frozen nether cave. The deeper one went, the more terrifying the chilling aura of the frozen nether cave would be. It was also because of this that the chilling aura of the frozen nether cave could suppress the ghost curse in Long Hao's body. Inside the frozen nether cave, there were many passages that crisscrossed like an unfathomable maze. Qin Yu walked for a while and saw it. This crystal-clear frozen nether cave could be said to be a natural maze that could interfere with one's perception. If it were not for the secret seals along the way, even Pan Hong, who had been here several times, would not have been able to enter and exit as he pleased. After about an incense stick's worth of time, Qin Yu appeared in front of a sparkling and translucent ice lake. The ice lake was not very big, only about 10 feet wide. The lake water inside was formed by pure, chilling ice, like an orchid crystal. Break the seal. Pan Hong walked to the front of the lake and formed a seal with his hands. An ancient and mysterious divine seal appeared. The divine seal entered the lake, and mysterious ancient runes spread out above the lake. In an instant, a mysterious 8 trigrams divine formation was formed. In the center of the divine formation, there was a blue crystal coffin. Through the dark blue crystal, a figure could be seen lying quietly inside. It was a handsome man in white with a long spear in his hand. Although he was unconscious, the aura that the man emitted was extremely terrifying and oppressive. This person was none other than Long Hao, peak divine grade emperor. Qin Yu and the dragon soul looked at Long Hao in the crystal coffin, and a strange look flashed in their eyes. Long Hao's cultivation was even stronger than the high-level divine great emperor that Pan Hong and the dragon soul had mentioned. This level of cultivation was only half a step away from the ancient emperor realm. What kind of opportunity did Long Hao have in the 10 years that he had been in the Eternal Sword Tomb? How could this be? However, after Pan Hong sensed Long Hao's cultivation, he was also shocked. Chapter 567. What do you mean? Hearing Pan Hong's words, Qin Yu asked in confusion. Junior brother's cultivation has become stronger in the past few years, Pan Hong said in a daze. The last time he came, Long Hao's cultivation was only at the high-level Saint Great Emperor realm. But now, Long Hao's cultivation had broken through to the peak of the Saint Great Emperor realm while he was sealed in ice. Pan Hong couldn't help but feel shocked. Qin Yu and the dragon soul took a glance at each other. They were both astonished. In the current heaven domain, high-level Saint Grade sovereigns were considered to be among the top experts. At this level, it would take a lot of time or amazing opportunities to improve one's cultivation. After all, a peak Saint Great Emperor realm was only half a step away from the top ancient emperor realm. How did Long Hao achieve a breakthrough in his cultivation under such circumstances? Break the seal. After thinking for a moment, Qin Yu said to Pan Hong. He would know what was going on after he checked it himself. Hearing this, Pan Hong nodded and repeatedly struck out a divine seal to break the seal on the crystal coffin. Boom! Immediately, a monstrous aura like that of an ancient ferocious beast soared into the sky and swept across the sky. The entire netherworld cold cave seemed to tremble faintly. The cultivation of a peak Saint-grade Emperor Realm Master was terrifying enough to crush an ordinary Emperor Realm Master. However, Qin Yu, Long Hun, and Pan Hong could all sense it. Long Hao's terrifying aura contained an extremely obvious gloomy and evil aura. It was the ghost curse that Ghost Emperor Jin Tian had injected into Long Hao's body. Ghost Ancestor Divine Eye, Qin Yu thought, and a dark and deep pupil light flashed in the depths of his right eye. The Ghost Eye of Destruction, which had evolved into the Ghost Ancestor Divine Eye, appeared. Under the gaze of the Ghost Ancestor Divine Eye, Qin Yu immediately saw. In Long Hao's dantian and 5 internal organs, there was a dark and evil ghost chi curse. The 6 ghost chi curse were like 6 ferocious and indestructible evil ghosts, constantly eroding Long Hao's 5 internal organs and dantian. It's the immortal devouring ghost curse. When Qin Yu saw those 6 ghost curses, his expression could not help but turn grave. The immortal devouring ghost curse was the most mysterious and vicious of all the ghost curses Ghost Emperor Jin Tian had. Qin Yu didn't know much about the immortal devouring ghost curse. He had only seen it in some ancient secret books. It was rumored that this ghostly curse had been passed down from the ancient immortal era and could even threaten the ancient immortals. As for whether it was true or not, there was no way to verify it. However, there was one thing that Qin Yu was certain of. Long Hao had definitely forced Ghost Emperor Jin Tian into a corner. That was why Ghost Emperor Jin Tian had no choice but to use this life-saving trump card. Even when he besieged Qin Yu in his previous life, Ghost Emperor Jin Tian didn't use the immortal devouring ghost curse. What happened in the 10 years that Long Hao entered the Eternal Sword Tomb? This thought surfaced in Qin Yu's mind again. Of course, this situation could only wait for Long Hao to wake up before he could ask clearly. Ghost Seal. Immediately, Qin Yu formed a seal with his hands, and the ghost ancestor gods, I trembled slightly. Beams of mysterious light appeared, penetrating the vast Tao around Long Hao and seeping into the 6 ferocious ghost curses. Not long after, the 6 ferocious ghost curses appeared clearly in the ghost ancestor god's eye. Qin Yu immediately focused and looked inside. As the ghost ancestor god's eye closed gently, the 6 ferocious ghost curses that appeared seemed to become illusory and transparent. One could clearly see the internal structure of the 6 ghost curses appear one by one. A trace of Emperor Soul power between Qin Yu's eyebrows merged with the ghost ancestor god's eye, clearly imprinting the structure of the 6 ghost curses. Then, Qin Yu closed his eyes slightly, and the method to break the structure of the 6 ghost curses appeared one after another in his mind. Qin Yu tried to deduce one by one, but he failed one by one. The methods to break other ghost curses couldn't be used on the immortal devouring ghost curse at all. Time slowly passed by as Qin Yu continued to close his eyes and attempt. The Dragon Soul and Pan Hong saw Qin Yu's expression become more and more solemn. They also knew that the ghost curses in Long Hao's body couldn't be easily broken, so they didn't dare to disturb Qin Yu at all. After a full 3 days, Qin Yu slowly opened his eyes, and there was a hint of fatigue in his eyes. Even with the strength of Qin Yu's ancient Emperor Realm Emperor Soul, these 3 days and 3 nights of deduction were a little difficult to bear. It was even more tiring than a great battle. Whoosh! After opening his eyes, Qin Yu didn't hesitate and formed a seal with both hands. A pitch-black light appeared in his eyes and entered Long Hao's body. Long Hao's body trembled violently, and the 6 ferocious ghost curses roared like evil spirits. Unfortunately, under the suppression of the ghost ancestor god's eye, they returned to nothingness. As expected, I can only barely suppress it. Qin Yu carefully sensed. Although the 6 ferocious ghost curses returned to nothingness, they were only suppressed and couldn't be completely erased. Master, how is it? Seeing this, Pam Hong quickly asked. It's a little troublesome. Qin Yu said. What do you mean? Dragon Soul asked. From Qin Yu's words, it seemed that he had found a way to break it. I need the power of the primordial immortal soul, Qin Yu said slowly. According to his analysis, the 6 ferocious ghost curses contained the power of the primordial immortal soul. In order to break it, it needed a pure primordial immortal soul. The power of the primordial immortal soul. Pam Hong's eyes widened. Could it be the soul of an ancient immortal from the primordial immortal era? Dragon Soul was also extremely shocked and in disbelief. The ancient immortal era had long disappeared in the primordial immortal era. In today's heaven region, even ancient immortal relics were extremely rare. Occasionally, one would appear, but it would quickly be occupied by the super forces and ancient emperors. Not to mention the immortal soul of a primordial immortal. To be precise, as long as it contains a primordial immortal soul, it will suffice. Although the two sounded similar, in reality, they were worlds apart. A complete primordial immortal soul would probably still have its consciousness even if it was still alive. However, it was different if it only contained a primordial immortal soul. It was like the difference between primordial immortal soul and primordial immortal soul. Hearing this, Pam Hong's dazed expression did not relax for long. This was because even a primordial immortal soul was definitely not easy to find. And now, Dragon Soul's current situation. I have already suppressed the ghost curse in Long Hao's body. Pam Hong, your next task is to search for clues about the primordial immortal soul. Remember, don't let the Ghost Emperor's sacred island find out. Qin Yu reminded Pam Hong. The upper echelons of the Ghost Emperor's sacred island, especially Ghost Emperor Jintian, should know the way to break the immortal devouring ghost curse. If Pam Hong's actions were exposed, it was very likely that Ghost Emperor Jintian would find out. All right, Pam Hong nodded heavily. Although the ghost curse in Long Hao's body was not broken, Long Hao's condition would not worsen. This would give them enough time to search for the primordial immortal soul. Let's seal it first. Qin Yu, who was about to let Pam Hong seal Long Hao again, suddenly exclaimed softly. Chapter 568. Qin Yu's gaze landed on Long Hao's forehead. As the immortal devouring ghost curse was suppressed, a sword seal the size of an inch quietly appeared between Long Hao's brows. What a terrifying sword aura! Long Hun and Pan Hong instantly sensed it, and their faces were filled with shock. The sword aura emitted from the inch-sized sword seal was so strong that it even made them feel a bone-chilling sense of danger. Merging with the flesh and bones, Qin Yu's eyes glowed, and he quickly saw through it. Within that inch-sized sword seal, there were strands of sword qi that quietly seeped out and fused into Long Hao's limbs and bones. With the integration of the sword qi, Long Hao's physical body and cultivation base gradually became stronger. I see. A strange look flashed across Qin Yu's eyes. When Qin Yu recognized the immortal devouring ghost curse, he felt extremely strange. Even with the power of the underworld cold cave, it was impossible for Long Hao to survive for hundreds of years after being hit by the immortal devouring ghost curse. Now, the mystery was solved. The reason why Long Hao could survive until now was all because of the sword aura of the sword seal to resist the power of the immortal devouring ghost curse. Could this be the opportunity that Junior Brother obtained in the Eternal Sword Tomb? Pan Hong suddenly said after looking at it for a while. It should be, but Qin Yu raised his brows slightly. After thinking for a while, a strand of Emperor's soul flowed out and seeped into the sword seal between Long Hao's brows. After a while, Qin Yu sensed that the sword seal had indeed merged with Long Hao's soul. That was why Long Hao's Emperor's soul could continue to grow stronger when he was hit by the ghost curse and frozen. Qin Yu controlled the Emperor's soul to continue seeping into the sword seal. He felt that the sword seal was a little strange. Whoosh! Suddenly, a profound fluctuation appeared within the inch-long sword mark. Before Qin Yu could react, he was engulfed by that energy fluctuation and entered a dense fog. The fog was filled with countless strands of inextinguishable sword aura that seemed to be able to crush everything in the void. I'm trapped. After wandering in the fog for a long time, Qin Yu's heart trembled slightly. He felt that he was trapped in this fog and was unable to break free unless he gave up this strand of sovereign spirit. Qin Yu thought for a moment, and with a thought, a destiny star in the creation immortal seal was consumed. Immediately, he saw that the surrounding dense fog had become much thinner. The power that had trapped the Emperor's spirits also seemed to have weakened quite a bit. Seeing this, Qin Yu immediately consumed his stars of providence. After consuming more than 10 stars of providence in a row, the mist completely disappeared. Only wisps of invincible sword chi were swimming freely in it like little fish. Qin Yu was finally able to clearly see the scene within the fog. This was a spacious and empty space, about 1,000 feet in size. At the center of the space, there was a broken ancient talisman that emitted a monstrous sword aura. Qin Yu walked over. After taking a closer look, he realized that the ancient talisman was formed by invincible sword chi. After looking at the ancient talisman for a while, Qin Yu's Emperor's spirit floated up, wanting to enter the ancient talisman. Boom! However, the moment the Emperor's spirit touched the ancient talisman, a vast and terrifying sword intent swept out. Qin Yu's Emperor's spirit was directly crushed by the sword chi. Thump! Thump! Qin Yu's body shook violently, and he was forced to take a few steps back. A look of shock appeared on his face. Master, what happened? Pan Hong and the Dragon Soul were greatly shocked. They did not know what was going on. I'm afraid that in addition to resolving the immortal devouring ghost curse, we have to think of a way to deal with this sword seal. Qin Yu suppressed the fluctuating blood chi in his body and walked in front of Long Hao. His eyes flashed coldly as he stared at the sword seal. At that moment, Qin Yu sensed a trace of soul energy from the ancient talisman of sword chi in the sword seal. However, that was not Long Hao's soul energy. In other words, it was very likely that the ancient talisman of sword chi was hiding some living creature. As for what it was, Qin Yu's cultivation was still weak. It was difficult to find out with just the Emperor's spirit of the ancient Emperor realm. Seal it in ice. Qin Yu did not linger on the ancient talisman of sword chi. Currently, the greatest threat to Long Hao was the immortal devouring ghost curse. As for the ancient talisman of sword chi, he did not have to worry too much about it before the immortal devouring ghost curse was resolved. After leaving the Netherworld Cold Cave, Qin Yu followed Pan Hong to the faction that Pan Hong had founded. Pan Hong's faction was called the Holy Dragon Sect. It was located in the Heavenly Martial Realm, one of the 27 martial realms of the East Continent. It was considered the border of the East Continent. Currently, the Holy Dragon Sect had two peak emperors. One was Pan Hong, and the other was the sect master of a faction that Pan Hong had merged with. In the Heavenly Martial Realm, the Holy Dragon Sect could barely be considered a mid-tier faction. However, in the entire East Continent, it could not be ranked at all. Although the East Continent could not be compared to the Middle Continent, its overall strength far surpassed the Spiritual Continent. Two top Emperor Realm Masters were nothing in this place. Pan Hong had brought Qin Yu into the Holy Dragon Sect. Apart from a few high-level emperors, no one else knew. After visiting Pan Hong, Qin Yu had originally planned to visit his second senior sister, Ning Qianma. However, when he thought of Xing Luo, who also knew where his second senior sister was in seclusion, Qin Yu could only temporarily suppress this thought. Speaking of Xing Luo, Qin Yu thought of Zhang Tian's Sword Immortal. He wondered how the two of them were doing now. In the following time, Qin Yu waited for news from AOD. AOD had said that he would take 3 months. Now, almost a month had passed. While waiting, Qin Yu kept refining spirit pills to raise the cultivation of the purple lightning divine firmament dragon Lei Kuang and the golden flame heaven incinerating dragon Fun Yu. However, after another month, Pan Hong gave Qin Yu a pleasant surprise. After condensing 9 purple suns and cultivating Qin Yu's divine heaven sun refining technique, Pan Hong's cultivation soared to peak emperor realm. When Qin Yu saw this, he used the 9 suns divine flower and immortal spirit herbs to refine the Saint Spirit Pill. The Saint Spirit Pill was an immortal pill that all peak emperors dreamed of. This immortal pill could increase the chances of a peak emperor becoming a divine emperor. If this immortal pill was circulated, it would cause countless emperors to fight over it. After Pan Hong obtained the Saint Spirit Pill, he arranged the matters of the sect and immediately went into seclusion. As long as he became a divine emperor, the status of the Holy Dragon sect in the heavenly martial realm would soar rapidly. Even in the Middle Continent, a divine emperor was a master who could dominate a region and create a superpower. Only those unparalleled holy grounds with ancient emperors and imperishable inheritances could suppress them. More importantly, the combat power of a divine emperor would be of great help to Qin Yu at this stage. Dong dong dong. After Pan Hong went into seclusion for more than a month, Qin Yu, who was guarding outside Pan Hong's seclusion, suddenly heard the urgent sound of an ancient bell in the Holy Dragon sect. The Emperor Realm elders of the Holy Dragon sect were all gathering towards a certain palace in the Holy Dragon sect. Qin Yu took a glance at that ancient palace. He did not move to leave. Xiao. But not long after, a rainbow light broke through the sky and swept over with the aura of a peak emperor. Chapter 569. When the rainbow light dissipated, a middle-aged man with a dignified face appeared. This man was the sect master of Pan Hong's force, one of the 2 top emperors of the Holy Dragon sect. Is the sect master still in seclusion? Li Qing looked at the palace, which was heavily guarded. Qin Yu nodded and asked what happened. The Golden Feather sect has invaded. Li Qing, who was always serious, looked even more solemn. Although he did not know Qin Yu's background, Li Qing did not underestimate Qin Yu, who had been brought back by Pan Hong. Qin Yu, who was only a second-grade emperor, gave off a faint sense of danger. The Golden Feather sect? Qin Yu's expression changed slightly. The Golden Feather sect was located in the south of the Holy Dragon sect and had 2 top emperors. Pan Hong and Li Qing chose to merge to prevent the Golden Feather sect from annexing them. This way, the Holy Dragon sect and the Golden Feather sect could confront each other. How strong are they? Qin Yu asked. There are 5 top-level emperors and more than 30 high-level emperors. It was precisely because Golden Feather sect had 3 more top-level emperors that Li Qing was so anxious. We must inform the sect master. Otherwise, we will have to retreat. Li Qing said quickly. Qin Yu shook his head. I will deal with them. Pan Hong was in seclusion to break through to the divine grade emperor realm. At such a critical moment, he could not be disturbed by external forces. Otherwise, even with the help of the saint's spiritual celestial pills that Qin Yu had refined, he might not be able to break through. You? Li Qing looked to Qin Yu with a rather strange expression. Qin Yu did give him a sense of danger, but no matter how strong he was, could he make up for the huge gap between the 4 top emperors? Qin Yu did not waste any time. With a thought, the skeleton ghost king appeared. You stay here. Kill anyone who dares to disturb us. After the end of the Double Void secret realm in the Central Province Saint region, the Skeleton Ghost King had devoured more than 100 top emperors. Now, the Skeleton Ghost King had reached the peak of the 8th grade Sovereign Master level. With a boundless 10,000 beast superpower, he could rival a top-notch Sovereign Master. Understood? The Skeleton Ghost King nodded. With a flash, it disappeared into the void. However, the entire palace where Pan Hong was in seclusion was enveloped by the Skeleton Ghost King's aura. Peak 8th grade Sovereign, Li Qing couldn't hide the shock in his eyes when he saw the Skeleton Ghost King. He did not expect that there would be such a powerful existence by Qin Yu's side. Just what was Qin Yu's background? Let's go, Qin Yu said, and immediately turned into a ray of light and rushed towards the sacred dragon sect's great protective array. Li Qin came back to his senses and hurriedly followed. At first, he did not believe Qin Yu's words. However, after seeing the skeleton ghost king, it was completely different. Since Qin Yu had the confidence to leave the skeleton ghost king here, he must have some heaven-defying means. In a few breaths, Qin Yu arrived in front of the sacred dragon sect's great protective array. In the void, a few hundred meters away, there were thousands of people gathered. Their cultivation was at least at the Emperor realm. With such a foundation, except for the gap between top emperors, it was enough to compete with top forces like the Heavenly Imperial Palace in the Spirit State. It was obvious that the Golden Feather sect's operation this time must have been intervened by other forces. Didn't they say that the Sacred Dragon sect might have a third top Emperor Realm Master besides Sect Master Pan Hong and Vice Sect Master Li Qin? Why is Li Qin the only one here? In front of the thousands of emperors of the Golden Feather sect, there were 5 figures with extraordinary auras standing in the void. The one who spoke was a top Emperor Realm Master in a golden robe with a ferocious face. The pattern on the sleeve of the golden-robed Emperor Realm Master was a blood-red sword, not the symbol of the Golden Feather sect. Since Pan Hong did not appear, it means that the information sent back by the spies I planted is true. Pan Hong went out this time and really obtained some opportunities. He might be breaking through to the Divine Emperor realm now. The eyes of the sect master of the Golden Feather sect, Qian Jintian, flickered with murderous intent. It was because of this information that Qian Jintian knew that accepting the help of the Blood Sword sect was tantamount to asking a tiger for its skin. However, he still had to rely on the power of the Blood Sword sect. If Pan Hong really broke through to the Divine Emperor realm, the Golden Feather sect would only have 2 choices. They would either submit or be removed from the sect. Sect Master Qian, you and I are both top emperors. You should know how difficult it is to break through to the Divine Emperor realm. Even if Pan Hong obtained some opportunities, it is absolutely impossible for him to break through to the Divine Emperor realm. In the Blood Sword sect, an old man holding an ancient blood-red sword said with a chuckle. I hope so, Qian Jintian said. Sect Master, it seems that Pan Hong will not appear. When do we take action? The Vice Sect Master of the Golden Feather sect, Wang Hong, who was holding a huge saber, asked with murderous intent. We're almost ready. Of course, we should take action now. Qian Jintian's eyes flashed with murderous intent as a mysterious ancient talisman flickered in his palm. In the next moment, a violent fluctuation of Dao arts came from the Sacred Dragon sect. Immediately after, there was a loud rumbling sound. A huge hole appeared in the Sacred Dragon sect's sect defending array, and countless array runes became chaotic. Kill! Qian Jintian shouted and immediately led the Emperor Realm Masters to attack. The Dao arts fluctuation that appeared in the Sacred Dragon sect was caused by the spies he had planted in the sect. Now that the Sacred Dragon sect's sect defending array was broken, it was the best time for them to invade. This fluctuation, oh no, it's a trap. However, the moment Qian Jintian, Wang Hong, and the 3 top emperors of the Bloodblade sect rushed into the array, their faces changed. Around them, there was a thick fog-like white qi that kept surging in the void. An extremely terrifying pressure was emitted from the white qi. It made them feel as if they were trapped in a muddy swamp, and their movements were greatly restricted. Not only that, but their perception and Dao arts were also greatly suppressed. Xiao. Suddenly, there was a sharp sound of something breaking through the air, followed by the sound of flesh and blood exploding. A strong smell of blood immediately permeated the air. What the hell happened? Qian Jintian, who was on full alert, looked extremely solemn. Even if his perception was suppressed, he could still sense that at least 20 high-level emperors had fallen. This made Qian Jintian's heart sink, and he had an extremely bad feeling. Let's rush out first. Wang Hong and the three top emperors of the Bloodblade sect came to Qian Jintian's side. Let's go. Hearing this, Qian Jintian and the other four immediately set off in the direction of the Sacred Dragon sect. No matter what kind of array it was, with five top emperors working together, they did not believe that they could not break it. But before they could get far, the face of the Bloodblade sect's old man changed slightly. Be careful. As soon as he finished speaking, the five of them immediately stopped in the void filled with white qi. A figure quietly appeared in front of them. It was Qin Yu. Chapter 570. Is this the third top-notch emperor hidden by the Sacred Dragon sect? Qian Jintian, Wang Hong, and the three top-notch emperors from the Bloodsword sect were stunned when they saw Qin Yu. Qin Yu, who was exuding a majestic divine power, made their hearts palpitate. It was the kind of palpitating feeling one would feel when facing an extremely dangerous creature. In other words, the Qin Yu that appeared possessed a threat capable of killing them. Qin Yu ignored the five of them. Mysterious runes spread out from his left hand, and he shouted, "Formation rise! Wang! 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 Wang!" Immediately, in the void filled with white gas, lines of clearly visible mysterious runes appeared and turned into a mysterious ancient formation. The ancient formation was only a few hundred feet wide, which was just enough to trap Qian Jintian and the other four. Space seal. No, this is the power of space-time. Qian Jintian and the other four immediately attacked, trying to break the ancient formation. But soon, the expressions of the five people changed again and again. The space within the mysterious ancient formation was like the surface of water. Layers upon layers of ripples appeared, and an extremely terrifying fluctuation spread out. This was not a simple spatial fluctuation, but an extremely rare power of space-time. Inside the ancient formation, Qian Jintian and the other four felt as if they were in a different space. Time and space were greatly affected. Whoosh! In a flash, Qin Yu rushed out like a ghost and rushed into the ancient formation. The Godslayer in his hand lit up with ancient sword power and swept out. An ancient divine weapon. Even if it's an ancient divine weapon, with his cultivation, he can't unleash much of its power. He's dreaming if he wants to deal with us alone. 9 swords of bloodlight. Chaotic energy slash. While Qian Jintian and the other four were shocked, they also unleashed their killing intent and secret techniques. Divine power boiling. At this moment, the divine power mark on Qin Yu's palm moved. Inside the ancient formation, the ancient divine power in the bodies of Qian Jintian and the other four suddenly became violent. This made the situation worse for Qian Jintian and the other four, who were already suppressed by the ancient formation. The violent and terrifying fluctuations of their skills were immediately weakened by several levels. Bloodthirsty hell. At the same time, a loud dragon roar was heard. Blood mist covered the sky, and the dragon's soul controlled the bloodthirsty, celestial dragon to appear. Rumble. An earth-shattering battle broke out in the ancient space-time array, and even the sky collapsed. Under the joint attack of Qin Yu and the dragon's soul, Qian Jintian and the other four, who had suffered from the ancient divine energy within their bodies, were all seriously injured. 2 were even killed. Wait, we're from the Bloodsword sect. You can't kill us. Seeing that he was about to lose his life under Qin Yu's storm-like blood-red sword light, the golden-robed man from the Bloodsword sect cried out in fear. Qin Yu's eyes flickered, and he changed his attack. He formed a divine seal with his left hand and shouted, "Soul, devouring curse." The golden-robed man, who originally thought that he had escaped a calamity, did not even have time to react before his sovereign spirit was sealed. As for Qian Jintian and the other 2, Qin Yu did not show any mercy. He directly beheaded them and sealed their sovereign spirits. Although Qian Jintian and the other 4 were all top Emperor Realm masters, their combat strength was far inferior to the 1,000 Mountain Cauldron of the 10,000 Martial Sect. Even the 1,000 Mountain Cauldron, who had reached the limit of a top Emperor Realm master, was killed by Qin Yu after his ancient divine powers had gone berserk. Qian Jintian and the other four naturally could not last long in Qin Yu's hands. It's over? Outside the divine array, Li Qing, who was suppressing several high-level emperors from the Golden Feather sect while watching Qin Yu's battle, was shocked. With his own strength, he had fought against 5 peak emperors and killed all of them in such a short time. Only a Saint Emperor Realm Master would be able to display such terrifying combat power, right? This made Li Qing more and more curious about Qin Yu's identity. From Pan Hong's attitude towards Qin Yu, Li Qing knew that Qin Yu's background was not simple. Now, it seemed that Qin Yu's background was even more shocking than he had imagined. After Qian Jintian and the other top emperors were killed, the rest of the Golden Feather sect's emperors were naturally much easier to deal with. Under the divine array set up by Qin Yu, the violent battle only lasted for half an incense stick's worth of time before it ended. The thousands of emperors from the Golden Feather sect and the Bloodsword sect who had joined forces to invade were all killed. Under Li Qing's leadership, dozens of emperors from the Holy Dragon sect also died while facing the enemy. This was a great loss for the Holy Dragon sect, but compared to the annihilation of the Golden Feather sect and the Bloodsword sect, the loss was not worth mentioning at all. After the battle, Qin Yu took out the Emperor's soul of the Golden-Robed Man. After using the soul-devouring curse to search and refine his soul, Qin Yu quickly obtained detailed information about the Bloodsword sect. The Bloodsword sect was an upper-middle force in the heavenly martial realm. Like the Holy Dragon sect and the Golden Feather sect, it was located in the southern region of the heavenly martial realm. The Bloodsword sect had 9 top emperors, and their foundation was comparable to the heavenly imperial palace and other top forces in the spiritual state. Before this, the Bloodsword sect had always intended to unify the southern region. But because the Holy Dragon sect and the other 4 great forces existed in the southern region, the Bloodsword sect was worried that the 5 great forces would join forces to fight against them, so they had always been secretly infiltrating. When they learned that the grudge between the Golden Feather sect and the Holy Dragon sect had escalated, they immediately sent people to take advantage of this opportunity to unify the southern region. If not for Qin Yu, the Bloodsword sect's plan might have succeeded. After all, even if Pan Hong came out of seclusion, it would be impossible to reverse the situation today. I'm afraid that the Bloodsword sect will not let today's battle go, so we can't let our guard down. As for the other matters, you can decide. Seeing Li Qing come to ask about the next arrangements, Qin Yu gave a simple explanation. In his previous life, he did not establish a sect, and when he came to the spiritual state, he focused on cultivation, so it was not convenient for him to arrange a force. After Pan Hong came out of seclusion, it was better to let Li Qing make the arrangements. All right, Li Qing nodded and immediately went to make the arrangements. After this battle, the Holy Dragon sect's cultivators seemed to view Qin Yu as their leader. In a world of cultivators, the strong were always respected. News of the battle between the 3 great sects of the Holy Dragon sect quickly spread throughout the heavenly martial realm. Even in the vast eastern continent, it was rare for thousands of sovereigns to die in a great battle. The Holy Dragon sect, which was not famous in the southern region of the heavenly martial realm, became famous after this battle and became a superior faction of the heavenly martial realm. Before knowing the Holy Dragon sect's foundation, the Bloodsword sect did not take any revenge on the Holy Dragon sect. Of course, the Bloodsword sect had to gather information and mobilize their forces. The destruction of the Golden Feather sect in this great battle also caused the southern region to be in chaos. The Holy Dragon sect did not fight over the Golden Feather sect's territory and resources. However, the other factions wantonly made a move, causing many casualties. Amid the turmoil in the southern region of the heavenly martial realm, 1 month passed quietly. Boom! On this day, the Holy Dragon sect's cultivators, who were on high alert, felt a vast might sweep through the 9 heavens, suppressing everyone. They finally succeeded. Outside the palace, Qin Yu, who was meditating in seclusion, opened his eyes, and a bright light flashed in them. It was obvious that Pan Hong had broken through to the divine emperor grade. Chapter 571. The sect master has become a divine emperor. That's great. We don't have to worry about the Blood Sword sect anymore. Haha. I'm afraid it's the Blood Sword sect's turn to worry now. As Pan Hong became a divine emperor, the ripples spread out. All the top powers of the Sacred Dragon sect gathered together, their faces filled with excitement. A divine emperor was definitely a top powerhouse in the heavenly martial realm. At the very least, there were no divine emperors in the southern region of the heavenly martial realm. In other words, Pan Hong, who had become a divine emperor, could easily unify the southern region. This naturally excited the cultivators of the Holy Dragon sect. The bigger the territory, the more resources there would be. The number of powerhouses in the sect would naturally increase in the future, and their forces would become stronger and stronger. Li Qing, who was the first to arrive, had a look of relief on his face. Before the merger with the Holy Dragon sect, there were a total of 6 great forces in the southern region. Li Qing was now very glad that he had chosen to merge with the Holy Dragon sect. Now that Pan Hong had become a divine emperor, his status would naturally rise in the future. Of course, Li Qing was also very envious of Pan Hong. Becoming a divine emperor was the dream of all top-notch emperors. Once one entered the divine emperor realm, their status would undergo an earth-shaking change. The change was even greater than the difference between the martial emperor realm and the emperor realm. Unfortunately, the barrier to becoming a divine emperor hindered the progress of countless top-notch emperors. Li Qing knew very well that if he did not get a powerful opportunity, he would not be able to become a divine emperor in this lifetime. When Pan Hong became a divine emperor and emitted a monstrous divine aura, the top emperors in the southern region of the heavenly martial realm all sensed it. This made the top emperors' expressions change, and they all went to confirm it personally. Who is it that has broken through to the divine emperor realm? Soon, news of a divine emperor appearing in the Holy Dragon sect spread. It was like a prairie fire that swept through all the forces in the heavenly martial realm. The heavenly martial realm was considered a remote place in the central region. Now that a new divine emperor had appeared, it was enough to shock the entire heavenly martial realm. Kacha! In the Holy Dragon sect, the door of the palace where Pan Hong was in seclusion opened. A burly figure walked out of the palace. It was Pan Hong. Pan Hong, who had just become a divine emperor, was still unable to control the surging Tao power. As a result, with him as the center, the void within a radius of several hundred miles seemed to be boiling like boiling water. The martial artists from the Sacred Dragon sect could not help but retreat. They could not withstand the pressure. Congratulations, sect leader, for stepping into the divine, heavenly, sovereign stage. Seeing Pan Hong appear, the Sacred Dragon sect's venerable sovereigns, led by Li Qing, knelt on one knee and saluted him. Although the Sacred Dragon sect had merged with the Sacred Dragon sect, Li Qing's position in the Sacred Dragon sect wasn't any lower than Pan Hong's. However, at that moment, Li Qing and the others had completely submitted to him. Pan Hong swept his dignified gaze across the Holy Dragon Gate and the martial emperors. Then, he waved his hand indifferently and said, "Disperse." Li Qing and the other sovereigns of the Sacred Dragon sect immediately left. It seems that your foundation is quite deep. Qing, you sense the aura of the Tao technique emitted by Pan Hong. Although Pan Hong had just become a low-level Saint Great Emperor Venerable, the ripples of Tao skill he emitted were extremely strong. In Qing Yu's opinion, Pan Hong was comparable to a mid-level Saint Great Emperor Venerable. If not for Master's immortal elixir, I'm afraid that even if I cultivated for another 100 years, it would still be difficult for me to step into the divine, heavenly, sovereign stage. Pan Hong, who had an extraordinary aura in front of the Sacred Dragon sect and the others, was as respectful as ever in front of Qin Yu. Pan Hong's attitude did not change just because his cultivation had reached the divine, heavenly, sovereign stage. When Pan Hong was accepted as a disciple by Qin Yu, it was during Qin Yu's peak period. Pan Hong had seen how the peerless ancient emperors of the past had died at the hands of Qin Yu. Pan Hong's respect and yearning for Qin You were almost imprinted in his bones. Qin Yu smiled and said, "Since you have successfully broken through, I can return to the spiritual state with peace of mind." Qin Yu's purpose of returning to the spiritual state was naturally because the agreed time with AOD was almost up. Pan Hong said, "Master, why don't I go with you?" Pan Hong did not know why Qin Yu was returning to the spiritual state. However, with Pan Hong's current cultivation, he could already help. Qin Yu shook his head slightly and said, "While you were in seclusion, the Golden Feather sect and the Bloodsword sect joined forces to attack." With that, Qin Yu told Pan Hong about the previous battle. After hearing this, Pan Hong's eyes were filled with killing intent. As expected, the Bloodsword sect could not hold back and made their move. "So, just in case, it's better for you to stay in the East Continent," Qin Yu said. Pan Hong nodded and immediately asked, "Master, what about the ancient Emperor forces in the East Continent?" "Secretly investigate the strength of their forces, but don't let anyone find out that it's you." Pan Hong was Qin Yu's eldest disciple. If those ancient emperors found out about Pan Hong's actions, it would cause trouble. That would inevitably give rise to a lot of incidents and even lead to Qin Yu being investigated. Pan Hong said solemnly, "Don't worry, I know what to do. Let's go." Qin Yu patted Pan Hong's shoulder. With a flash, he broke through the void and left. After Qin Yu left, Pan Hong immediately gathered Li Qing and the other elders of the Sacred Dragon sect. Soon, the Sacred Dragon sect's experts swarmed out under Pan Hong's lead. In less than half a day, the Bloodsword sect was destroyed and the other forces surrendered. The Sacred Dragon sect, led by Pan Hong, completely unified the southern region of the Heavenly Martial Realm. Qin Yu wanted to take revenge on the ancient Emperor forces in the East Continent without exposing his identity. Therefore, he needed a legitimate excuse. The rise of the Sacred Dragon sect was a good opportunity. Pan Hong was well aware of this, so he directly expanded and conquered the southern region. His goal was to lay a foundation for Qin Yu's future actions. 5 days after Qin Yu left the territory of the East Province, AOD finally sent him news. Seeing AOD's message, Qin Yu's expression changed slightly. The Divine Land? The Divine Land was the place with the most ancient and god relics in the 9 continents of the Heavenly Realm. Countless Ascendant Realm experts had passed away there. The most mysterious descendant of a god in the Heavenly Realm was also in the Divine Land. However, the Dragon Emperor had also passed away in the Divine Land. This was beyond Qin Yu's expectations. In his previous life, Qin Yu had also gone to search for the Dragon Emperor's tomb, but all the clues pointed to the extraterritorial realm. After all, the Dragon Emperor had refined a piece of the starry sky and turned it into the eternal Dragon Nation to accommodate thousands of dragons. Although he was surprised, Qin Yu immediately rushed to the Divine Land. Qin Yu had just left the East Continent and had yet to return to the spiritual state. Therefore, Qin Yu directly changed his route halfway. 12 days later, Qin Yu rushed without stopping and finally arrived at the border of the Divine Land. In a mountain range shrouded in marsh gas, Qin Yu saw AOD, who had been waiting for him. "You left the Heavenly Imperial Palace?" AOD asked curiously when he saw Qin Yu rushing over. AOD had originally gone directly to the spiritual state to look for Qin Yu, but it was in vain. "Something happened, so I'm not in the spiritual state now." Qin Yu nodded slightly. AOD didn't pursue the matter. Instead, he asked, "Can the barrier be broken?" "Of course." Qin Yu opened his left hand, and mysterious divine runes spread out. It was the barrier of the Dragon Emperor's tomb that AOD had given him. Chapter 572. Great! Seeing that Qin Yu had easily broken the boundary of the tomb of the Dragon Emperor, AOD's eyes flashed with joy. Originally, as long as Qin Yu could break the boundary within 10 breaths, it would be enough to meet AOD's expectations. But now, Qin Yu had done it in less than 5 breaths. 5 breaths less would be of great help to AOD's plan. Qin Yu dispersed the boundary in his palm and asked, How did the Dragon Emperor pass away in the Divine Land? This was something that Qin Yu was curious about. If he had known in his previous life that the tomb of the Dragon Emperor was in the Divine Land, he would not have needed to waste his time. He would not have wasted his time and effort in the extraterritorial region. Because my ancestor had something to do with the gods of ancient times, O.D. said. Qin Yu's eyes flashed with surprise. The Dragon Emperor was actually a creature of ancient times. This was really beyond Qin Yu's expectations. However, seeing that AOD did not elaborate, Qin Yu did not ask. He was about to enter the tomb of the Dragon Emperor, so he should know the secret of the Dragon Emperor. Let's go. After making sure that Qin Yu could break the boundary, AOD immediately took the lead and flew away. After about 4 hours, AOD led Qin Yu through the desolate Divine Land and arrived somewhere in the Divine Land. Woo woo woo. In front of an immeasurably deep and boundless cliff, there were gusts of whistling wind that sounded like the weeping of ghosts. AOD and Qin Yu descended from the sky and appeared at the edge of the cliff. The cliff was bottomless, and there were rolling clouds and mist like a sea of clouds. The tomb of the Dragon Emperor is hidden in the Endless Abyss. The Endless Abyss was a famous ancient relic, even in the Divine Land where there were many miracles. It was rumored that the Endless Abyss was an ancient battlefield where several ancient immortals had fought in the past. Therefore, this bottomless abyss appeared. When Qin Yu was looking at the Endless Abyss, a trace of special fluctuation quietly spread out. Flying shadow gauze. AOD took out an ancient gauze. As his true essence and Tao arts surged forth, the ancient muslin rapidly expanded. In the blink of an eye, AOD and Qin Yu were covered by the enlarged ancient veil. As the gray divine runes on the ancient veil flashed, they merged with the clouds of the Endless Abyss. Whoosh! AOD's hand seals changed, and the flying yarn shadow immediately turned into a ray of gray light and rushed into the Endless Abyss. The Endless Abyss was not only vast and boundless, but the rolling clouds and mist inside could also interfere with a martial artist's perception. Even with his perception ability, he couldn't tell the direction in the Endless Abyss. AOD flew for hundreds of thousands of miles before he finally came to a halt somewhere in the void. After coming to a stop, AOD looked around cautiously. Of course, what AOD was wary of was the 3 transformed dragons that he had mentioned before. Dragon Soul, how is it? At this time, Qin Yu also quietly asked the Dragon Soul. Qin Yu had come to the tomb of the Dragon Emperor for the sake of the former Dragon Emperor and for the sake of the transformed dragons. When he first came to the Endless Abyss, Qin Yu used a secret technique to sense it. However, even Qin Yu's ancient Emperor Soul power was greatly interfered with and suppressed by the Endless Abyss. Although I don't know the exact location, I can indeed sense it. The Dragon Soul, who had been using a secret technique to sense, spoke with a hint of excitement in its voice. Hearing this, Qin Yu's eyes flashed, and he was also quite excited. If he could capture all 3 transformed dragons, he would be able to. Then Qin Yu was confident that he could directly advance to the Divine Emperor realm and even recover to the Ancient Emperor realm. AOD looked at Qin Yu solemnly. Get ready. I'm going to summon the tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Okay. Qin Yu nodded slightly. A spiritual array disc appeared in his hand, and mysterious runes spread out. AOD immediately opened his right hand, and a mysterious divine seal appeared in his palm. As the divine seal trembled, it emitted an extremely ancient and mysterious fluctuation, as if a primordial immortal had descended. Fortunately, AOD was prepared, and the fluctuation emitted by the divine seal was completely blocked. Then, AOD's left hand turned into a sword, and he slid his right hand. Pale golden blood immediately flowed out. The blood flowed through his skin and into the mysterious divine seal. Beams of golden divine light shone out from the mysterious divine seal. Each beam of divine light was like a golden shenron, exuding an unparalleled dragon's might that suppressed the 9 heavens and 10 lands. Burning dragon blood, offering dragon's soul. Aod chanted the ancient dragon language, and the golden divine light danced around him. Appear. Following Aod's low roar, the golden divine dragon that was circling around him suddenly rushed into the 9 heavens. In the next moment, a vast divine might descended from the sky. In an instant, Qin Yu opened his eyes. He raised his head and looked. Shock flashed through his eyes. He saw a huge black shadow that was tens of thousands of feet tall, and it covered the sky and the sun, appearing in mid-air. After taking a closer look, he realized that the huge black shadow was the corner of a mysterious stone tomb. The mysterious stone tomb seemed to be carved from the body of a dragon. It was covered with dragon scales, and the mysterious dragon patterns were clearly visible. The tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Seeing the mysterious stone tomb, Qin Yu's eyes lit up like stars. Almost at the same time, the dragon soul said, "It's here in the east. Hurry up." Aod also sensed it, and his expression became more serious as he urged Qin Yu. After saying that, Aod formed a seal with his hands, and a dragon seal with cold air appeared between his eyebrows. Dark blue dragon scales that were as cold as ice instantly covered Aod's body. In the blink of an eye, Aod turned into a half-dragon, and a vast and immeasurable dragon's might swept out. It is indeed a primordial ice crystal dragon, and the dragon blood aura is very pure. The dragon soul looked at Aod, whose body was covered in dark blue crystal dragon scales, and its eyes were burning with passion. Aod's dragon blood aura was the purest dragon blood that the dragon soul had ever sensed. As Aod turned into a half-dragon, a bone-chilling ice shield appeared with them as the center. The ice shield was not very big, only about a few hundred feet wide. It was just enough to cover Aod, Qin Yu, and the sharp corner that appeared in the mysterious ancient tomb. Seeing this, Qin Yu did not hesitate and immediately flew to the sharp corner of the mysterious stone tomb. In the center of his palm, mysterious runes swept out and seeped into the stone tomb. Immediately, he saw the enchantment restriction that Aod had given him before appear on the mysterious stone tomb. He quickly used the method that he had practiced countless times to break it. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. 4 earth-shattering dragons might swept across the sky. The clouds and mist within 10,000 miles of the endless abyss were split apart. Qin Yu sensed it, and his eyes became brighter. For members of the dragon tribe in human form, while breaking the enchantment restriction, Qin Yu also looked at the 4 members of the dragon tribe in human form from the corner of his eye. The leader was a muscular man in a 5-clawed dragon robe. The 3 people beside the man in the dragon robe were all in long silver robes, and their auras were extraordinary. The 4 of them were all 9th-grade sovereigns, which was the cultivation of a top-notch sovereign. However, judging from the dragon's aura that they were emitting, they were not members of the dragon tribe. Chapter 573. There are 4 shape-shifted dragons. Qin Yu's eyes shone brightly. There were more shape-shifted dragons than the 3 shape-shifted dragons that Aod had mentioned. This was an unexpected surprise for Qin Yu. Primordial Evil Dragon, Natal Superpower, Primordial Yin-Yang Power, Umbra Illusion Dragon, Innate Mystique, Umbra 1000 Illusion Tao, Fiery Eyes Lunar Dragon, Natal Superpower, Lunar Destruction Curse, Earth Devouring Evil Dragon, Natal Superpower, Earth Spirit Communication Technique. The Dragon Soul and the Divine Dragon Ancient Seal formed a seal with both hands and performed a secret skill of the Dragon Clan. Soon, the Dragon Soul sensed the true forms of the 4 shape-shifted dragons. Even among the dragon race, the 4 of them were top-notch existences in terms of their dragon species and origin abilities. Aoba, Aoing, Aoli, Aosia, AOD looked at the four people with murderous intent in his eyes. These four were different from bloodthirsty Tian Long and Xian Hai. They were AOD's fellows. They were all from the same clan. In terms of bloodline, the four of them could be considered the descendants of the Dragon Emperor. However, the Dragon Emperor's bloodline was not as strong as AOD's. Therefore, they did not awaken the dragon seeds of the Dragon Emperor. AOD had thought that only AO Ing and the other two would come. He did not expect AO Ba to be hiding in the dark. In that case, the pressure on him would be much greater. I was wondering why he dared to come even though he knew that AO Ing and the other two were here. It turns out that he found help. AO Ba, who had replaced AOD in the Dragon Clan and called himself the Dragon Emperor, looked at the tomb of the Dragon Emperor with excitement in his eyes. As for the helper that AOD found, Qinyu, AOD did not care about him at all. With the number of subordinates he had brought with him this time, the addition of second-stage Emperor-level Qin, you would not be able to stop them. Kill. However, when he saw that Qinyu had broken through more than half of the barrier, AO Ba immediately gave the order. Immediately, the four of them entered their half-dragon forms and charged out with the surging power of Taoist techniques. For AO Ba and the others who had passed the shape-shifted lightning tribulation and reached the pinnacle of the sovereign realm, they did not want to transform into their dragon forms. Their current half-dragon form could be considered their strongest state. Of course, if he was forced into a desperate situation and had to use some kind of restriction technique, he would be able to use it. They would still completely transform into their dragon forms, just like the bloodthirsty heavenly dragon. Frozen heaven and earth. AOD formed a seal with his hands and cast his origin divine ability. In an instant, with the ice shield at the center, thousands of miles of space was frozen, turning into a world of ice. Primordial yin-yang power. AO Ba suddenly roared, and a rather evil and ferocious aura spread out. In the void around him, two types of energy, one yin and one yang, converged and formed a yin-yang taiji diagram. The yin-yang taiji diagram spun rapidly, shattering all of AOD's primordial ice crystals. He's actually a half-step divine emperor. AOD's eyes darkened as the killing intent in his eyes intensified. AO Ba was able to become the extraterritorial dragon race's emperor because his combat strength was enough to suppress a peak emperor. Now that his cultivation had reached the divine emperor realm, his strength must be even more terrifying. More importantly, it wasn't that AO Ba couldn't advance to the divine emperor realm before. It was just that AO Ba had been constantly tempering his dragon race bloodline and had suppressed the breakthrough of his cultivation. Now that his cultivation had reached the half-step divine emperor realm, it meant that AO Ba had reached the limit of tempering his bloodline. Now, the strength of AO Ba's Dragon Emperor bloodline was probably comparable to his. Sizzle. Sizzle. As AOD's killing intent raged, wisps of pitch-black air flowed out like thousands of ghosts. They wreaked havoc in the void and tainted AOD's ice shield. One could clearly see that the ice shield was disappearing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The attacker was the black-clad AO Li on AO Ba's left. AO Li's true form was a fiery eyes Taiyin dragon, which was a dragon with two types of power. A pair of fiery eyes could see through countless illusory arrays and secret techniques. The Taiyin power itself could crush all things and douse. However, AO Li's natal divine ability had only inherited the Taiyin power, which was the Taiyin destruction curse. But with the help of AO Li's fiery eyes, the ice shield that AOD had set up immediately had a weak point. Now, the Taiyin destruction curse had tainted the ice shield's weak point. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Before AOD could continue, streaks of dark light appeared along with the pitch-black airflows. If he glanced at the black light would immediately stop him. It was like the surface of a lake without ripples, reflecting the person who looked at it. It could make one's mind sink into the dark light unknowingly. The Phantom Illusion Dragon, Ao Ing, had unleashed her innate mystique, the Phantom Thousand Illusion Dao. This was a divine ability secret technique that could evolve into endless illusions. Although Ao Ba and the other two's natal divine abilities were released one after the other, they were only separated by a moment. Crack! Under the three's natal divine abilities, the ice shield that AOD had set up did not even last for 2 breaths of time. Immediately, a tiny crack appeared, and the crack was still expanding. How could this be? AOD's expression changed slightly. The power of Ao Ba and the other three's natal divine abilities was far beyond his expectations. He had thought that the ice shield could at least hold on for 10 breaths of time, but he did not expect that it could not even hold on for 2 breaths of time. AOD did not notice that Ao Xia, who had rushed over but did not make a move, had a mysterious and strange wave spreading around him. Because of this, the defensive power of Ao Ba's ice shield was far below AOD's expectations. Ao Ba, who did not know the reason, was puzzled. Even if Qin could break open the barrier before Ao Ba and the other 3 broke through the ice cover, he would not be able to do so. But AOD was not sure if he could stop Ao Ba and the other 3's natal divine abilities the moment they entered the tomb of the Dragon Emperor. If he could not stop them, then it would be meaningless for him to work together with Qin. Bang! However, at this moment, AOD heard an explosion that wasn't very loud. AOD's expression brightened, and he quickly turned to look. He saw that Qin had broken the barrier. It had only been 3 breaths of time since he had summoned the tomb of the Dragon Emperor to Ao Ba and the other 3's natal divine abilities. This was much shorter than the 5 breaths of time Qin Yu had shown before. We could go now. Qin Yu, who had broken the barrier, set up a divine curse barrier at the corner of the ancient tomb. Break the barrier. AOD immediately flew out, took out a golden dragon seal, and sent it into the divine curse barrier set up by Qin Yu. Immediately, a 5-foot-wide void light door appeared in a flash. AOD's figure flashed, and he immediately flew into it. Qin Yu was not slow either. Almost instantly, he flew into the void light door. But as they flew in, AOD and Qin Yu were both on guard. From the moment they broke through the boundary of the Dragon Emperor's tomb, their cooperation had come to an end. Chapter 574. Seal. Of course, although AOD was wary of Qin Yu, the most important thing for him was to stop Ao Ba and the others. So, the moment he rushed into the ancient tomb, AOD immediately used his secret technique. On top of the ice shield, there was a layer of transparent ice light screen that sealed the void light gate. In an instant, the door of light in the void disappeared and merged into the void. AOD's expression relaxed when he saw this. Qin Yu had broken the barrier a few breaths earlier, allowing him to successfully stop Ao Ba and the others. Doesn't this mean we can't suppress the 4 dragons? In the Divine Dragon Ancient Seal, the dragon soul saw the entrance to the Dragon Emperor's tomb disappear and said to Qin Yu. The Dragon Emperor's tomb was very important to Qin Yu, but Qin Yu could not give up on the 4 transformed dragons. In fact, if he were to choose between the 2, the Dragon Soul felt that those 4 dragon transformation clansmen would be of greater assistance to Qin Yu. Although the Emperor Realm was divided into 9th Grade Emperor Realm, Divine Grade Emperor Realm, and Ancient Emperor Realm by the cultivators of the Heaven Domain. But for the Dragon Clan, there was only 9th Grade Emperor Realm and Divine Grade Emperor Realm. Once the Dragon Clan stepped into the Divine Grade Emperor Realm, it was equivalent to a cultivator stepping into the Ancient Emperor Realm. The 4 transformed dragons all had the cultivation of a top Emperor Master. Qin Yu could still suppress them with the many secret techniques he had. But when they stepped into the Divine Great Emperor Realm, Qin Yu could not suppress them unless he regained the cultivation of his previous life. So, Qin Yu could not miss this opportunity. Of course, there is a chance. The 4 dragons have already entered. A bright light flashed through Yu's eyes. He took a glance at AOD and then flew away. When he broke the barrier of the Dragon Emperor's tomb, Yu left a perception seal at the entrance of the Dragon Emperor's tomb. Although he did not know what method Ba and the others used to hide from AOD, but he was sure that Ba and the others had already entered the ancient tomb. When AOD saw Yu flying away immediately, a strange look flashed across her eyes. AOD was quite wary of Yu. When Yu was still at the martial Emperor realm, he had suffered many losses at the hands of Yu. Now that Yu had broken through to the Emperor realm, his true strength was immeasurable. However, after pausing for a moment, AOD withdrew his gaze and flew towards a certain spot in the Dragon Emperor's tomb. Now, it did not matter whether it was Yu or Ba and the others. The most important thing was to obtain the inheritance left behind by the Dragon Emperor. At this time, somewhere in the Dragon Emperor's ancient tomb, there was a turbulent void. As the void shook, 4 figures appeared from the void. It was Quang Ba's group of 4. Go! After entering, Ba, who had an extremely fanatical expression, did not hesitate at all and quickly flew into the sky. The Dragon Emperor's tomb was vast and boundless, as if it contained a boundless starry sky. After Yu, AOD, Ba, and the others entered the ancient tomb and flew separately, an ancient battlefield appeared before them. An ancient battlefield appeared in front of them. Inside it, there was a faint gray air current that was moving up and down. It was as if there was some kind of power in the Dragon Emperor's ancient tomb that drew them here. It actually contains dragon chi. You caught a trace of the aura and sensed it for a moment. A look of surprise appeared on his face. Those light gray streams of air actually contained a rather pure dragon chi. It was unknown how big this ancient battlefield was. The entire battlefield was covered by dragon chi. One could imagine how terrifying the dragon chi contained in this battlefield was. Refined. With a thought, Yu's divine dragon ancient seal shook slightly. The dragon chi within a radius of several hundred kilometers was madly absorbed. But soon, Yu found that although the aura contained dragon chi, it was too thin. For the current Yu, no matter how much he absorbed, it would not be of much use. In the depths of this ancient battlefield, there are creatures with rich dragon chi. The dragon soul appeared from the divine dragon ancient seal and said to Yu, "Creatures." Yu raised his eyebrows slightly. In terms of sensing the dragon race, the dragon soul was far superior to him. Yu did not think that the dragon soul would be wrong. However, there were creatures in this ancient battlefield of the Dragon Emperor's ancient tomb. This caused Yu to feel extremely astonished. After thinking for a while, Yu rushed into the depths of the ancient battlefield. Dragon chi? Soul power? Not long after, Yu encountered the creature that contained the dragon's aura that the dragon soul sensed. It was a humanoid creature that was about 10 feet tall. Its facial features were blurry, and its body was illusory. It was formed from extremely pure dragon chi and some chaotic soul power. The dragon chi battle soul has finally appeared. Somewhere in this dragon chi ancient battlefield, AOD also encountered the dragon chi creature. A look of excitement appeared on his face. According to the inheritance information in the bloodline, these dragon chi creatures were called dragon chi battle souls. They were formed from the dragon chi and dragon soul power left behind by the Dragon Emperor. As such, these dragon chi fighting souls contained a unique dragon chi. It was the source dragon chi left behind by the Dragon Emperor. As long as one killed enough dragon chi battle souls and condensed the source dragon chi, they would be able to obtain the Dragon Emperor's inheritance. Heaven and earth freeze, along with a sky-shaking dragon roar. AOD's dragon scales that were overflowing with cold air appeared and directly entered the ancient ice crystal dragon's half-dragon body. Immediately after, AOD turned into an icy light and immediately rushed into the ancient battlefield, pouncing on the dragon chi battle soul. The surrounding void was frozen, and the dragon Chi battle soul, with the battle strength of an Emperor Realm Master, was directly frozen. Kacha! The deep blue ice layer burst, and the dragon Chi battle soul was destroyed. A trace of dark golden dragon Chi spread out and was restrained by AOD. After sensing the dark golden source dragon Chi, AOD did not stay for long and began to search for dragon Chi battle souls again. Bang! Somewhere in the ancient battlefield, Aoba and the other three killed a dragon Chi battle soul in an instant. Sure enough, these battle souls contain the Dragon Emperor's Source Dragon Chi. After Aoba sealed the Source Dragon Chi, his eyes flashed with joy. Let's get enough Dragon Chi battle souls first. After AOD triggers the Dragon Emperor's inheritance, we will act according to plan. Aoba said to Ao-ing, Aoli, and Aosia. Immediately, the four of them spread out and began to search for Dragon Chi battle souls separately. As Qin AOD, Aoba, and the others barged in, this ancient battlefield that had been peaceful for countless years seemed to be surging with huge waves. The Dragon Chi battle souls were killed one after another, and the amount of Source Dragon Chi they plundered was increasing. They could vaguely sense that there was a trace of ancient majestic Dragon Chi in the depths of this ancient battlefield. In this ancient battlefield that was filled with Dragon Chi, it seemed to be extremely independent, as if the ancient Dragon Emperor had reappeared. AOD, Aoba, and the others sensed it and were greatly surprised. However, when they sensed it carefully, they could not pinpoint its exact location. Somewhere in the ancient battlefield, Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul were sitting cross-legged. Around them, the skeleton Ghost King was guarding. Ancient battle dragon art. Qin Yu formed a seal with his hands and circulated his secret art. Traces of Source Dragon Chi were refined and turned into a vast sea of pure Dragon Chi that covered the two of them. Not long after, Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul, who had absorbed the vast Dragon Chi, had their cultivation skyrocketed. Chapter 575. Boom! Qin Yu, whose cultivation had already reached the peak of second-grade Emperor Realm, was struck by the astonishing dragon aura. After cultivating for just over an hour, he had completely broken through and reached the third-grade Emperor Realm. As for the Dragon Soul, which was originally a soul body, after absorbing the Dragon Emperor's soul power contained in the Dragon Aura, its cultivation soared rapidly. His cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds, breaking through several levels in a row and reaching the third-grade Emperor Realm. This was the Dragon Soul. It focused on consolidating its foundation and did not blindly break through its cultivation. Otherwise, it might have directly broken through to the fourth-grade Emperor Realm. After a full 6 hours, Qin Yu and the Dragon Soul had completely refined all the origin source Dragon Aura. This Dragon Aura is really good stuff. The Dragon Soul, whose cultivation had soared, could not hide its excitement. Qin Yu's eyes were also shining. Just a little bit of origin source Dragon Aura contained such power. This was enough to show what level the Dragon Emperor's cultivation had reached. Qin Yu had always thought that the Dragon Emperor had not reached the ancient immortal realm of the Primordial Age. Otherwise, he would not have dispersed the eternal dragon country and disappeared without a trace. But now it seemed that the Dragon Emperor had most likely reached the ancient immortal realm. But if he had really reached the ancient immortal realm, then why did he pass away here? With a heart full of doubts, Qin Yu once again walked into the depths of the ancient battlefield. Qin Yu did not know that the origin source dragon aura that he and the Dragon Soul had just refined was related to the Dragon Emperor's inheritance. If he had known, Qin Yu would not have refined it so wantonly. After all, compared to refining and increasing his cultivation now, the Dragon Emperor's inheritance was a better opportunity. Rumble. But after going tens of thousands of miles deep into the ancient battlefield, Qin Yu's eyes flashed slightly, and he stopped in the void. In front of him, there was a violent fluctuation of Dao techniques. Judging from the violent fluctuations, it was definitely a battle between two top Emperor Realm experts. And the two violent fluctuations of Dao techniques were filled with the fluctuations of the Dragon Clan. It's one of the four transformed dragons. The dragon's soul sensed slightly, and its eyes shone brightly. The four transformed dragons had actually made it in. Judging from the dragon energy fluctuations, it should be the Umbra illusory dragon of the four transformed dragon race. Immediately, Qin Yu restrained his aura and hid in the void, quietly approaching. Very soon, a shocking battle that swept across tens of thousands of miles of the ancient battlefield appeared before Qin Yu's eyes. In the void, there was a huge black shadow that was thousands of feet long. It was rolling between heaven and earth with dreamy black light. Just as the dragon's soul had sensed, the huge black shadow was the Umbra illusory dragon. Ao Ying's opponent was the Dragon Chi fighting soul that was thousands of feet long. The Dragon Chi fighting soul's cultivation was far beyond that of an ordinary top Emperor Master. He was like an ancient giant that could suppress the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Ao Ying, who had the cultivation of a top Emperor Realm Master, was forced to reveal his true form by the Dragon Chi fighting soul. Clearly, Ao Ying had reached a critical juncture. She had no choice but to reveal her true form and use her origin ability, secret technique. Qin Yu observed in the dark for a moment and immediately began to deploy. Ancient and mysterious curses silently merged into the void. Swoosh! Swoosh! After the battle lasted for a quarter of an hour, Ao Ying used the origin ability of Shenren's 1,000 illusionary shadows. The huge black shadow suddenly turned into billions of rays of black light that fell from the sky like meteors. The Dragon Chi fighting soul that seemed to have gained sentience was pierced by the black light and collapsed with a loud bang. A stream of origin Dragon Chi, over 100 zhang long, appeared in the sky. Ao Ying returned to his true form. A look of extreme excitement appeared on his pale face. The Dragon Chi fighting soul was so huge that it was comparable to killing tens of thousands of Dragon Chi fighting souls. This was why Ao Ying did not hesitate to reveal his true form and use the forbidden secret technique. Buzz! Buzz! However, just as Ao Ying was about to capture the Dragon Chi fighting soul and leave, in the void, there was a mysterious tremor of the formation inscriptions. Ao Ying instantly sensed it, and his expression changed. He found that the void within a radius of hundreds of miles had become distorted and trembling. Then, a shocking scene appeared. With Ao Ying as the center, hundreds of miles of heaven and earth turned into a turbulent space. This was the Dragon Soul's new superpower, the space-time empty world. In the space-time empty world, not only was it filled with chaotic space-time energy, but it was also filled with inscriptions. The entire space-time empty world had become a forbidden zone for divine arrays. Who exactly is it? Black dragon scales appeared all over Ao Ying's body. He was on high alert and could not hide the fear in his eyes. To be able to create an empty space in just a short while. This meant that the person who had done this had shocking attainments in the space Dao. This made Ao Ying, who originally thought that it was AOD who had done this, eliminate this thought. He knew AOD very well. AOD would definitely not use such a method to create an empty space. Before Ao Ying could guess for long, the void shook slightly. A figure appeared in the void. It was Qin Yu. Human clan? No, he has at least 3 types of dragon clan bloodlines in him. Ao Ying sized up Qin Yu coldly. The fear in his eyes grew. Qin Yu's cultivation was far inferior to his, but he felt a sense of danger from him. What really surprised Ao Ying was the Dragon Clan bloodline in Qin Yu's body. 3 types of Dragon Clan bloodlines in one body. This was completely beyond Ao Ying's understanding. Even among the Dragon Clan in the extraterritorial region, there had never been someone with 3 types of Dragon Clan bloodlines. It seems that you have already sensed the Dragon Clan bloodline in me, Qin Yu said calmly. Who are you? Ao Ying's eyes suddenly became as sharp as a sword when he heard this. But under that sharpness, there was also an unconcealable sense of seriousness. "I am the person who will create the eternal dragon nation and become the new dragon emperor," Qin Yu said. "Create the eternal dragon nation? Become the dragon emperor? Humph, shameless boasting." Ao Ying sneered coldly. He was considered one of the top existences in the extraterritorial region. Even so, he did not dare to have the ambition to become the dragon emperor in the tomb of the dragon emperor. Now, Qin Yu, a person who he did not know whether or not was a dragon clan bloodline, dared to say that he was the dragon clan bloodline. How dare he boast about becoming the dragon emperor? He must be daydreaming. Whether I am boasting or not, you will know when you see it for yourself. With an intention from Qin Yu, primal chaos dragon energy appeared in the void behind him. A vast primal chaos dragon realm appeared. 4 huge dragon silhouettes appeared in the chaos dragon domain. Black Sea is in his hands. When Ao Ying saw the 4 dragons, he could not help but be stunned. The last time Dragon Emperor Ao Ba had sent Black Sea to the heavenly region, there had been an accident. Ao Ying and the others had thought that Black Sea had died. They did not expect Black Sea to be in Qin Yu's hands. And the golden flame heaven incinerating dragon, the purple lightning heaven dragon, and the chaotic dragon race? But when he saw the dragon's soul, Ao Ying's eyes were filled with shock that could not be dispelled. He could not identify the dragon species of the dragon soul, but the chaotic dragon chi on the dragon soul could only appear in the legends of the ancient immortal dragon clan. Chapter 576. Ao Ying was stunned when he saw the dragon soul with the chaotic dragon aura. His original judgment of Qin Yu's shameless boasting also changed greatly. The golden flame heavenly dragon and divine firmament world annihilating dragon were extremely rare primordial dragon species. However, they had the dragon, the arch bloodline in their bodies, and their potential was not weaker than those two. However, the chaotic dragon species could be said to be a rare dragon species. Qin Yu was actually able to make the primal chaos dragon submit. Exactly what was his background? Submit to me, and when I become the arch in the future, all of you will be crowned emperors. Seeing that Ao Ying's mind was wavering, Qin Yu quickly said, "It's not impossible for me to submit to you, but you have to get the approval of my dragon emperor first." Ao Ying's expression changed for a while before he looked at Qin Yu and said, Don't worry. I will subdue your dragon emperor as well. However, I can't let you meet him now." Qin Yu had lived 2 lives, so it was impossible for him not to see that Ao Ying was stalling for time. Immediately, Qin Yu's mind moved, and the divine incantation restrictions in the space-time mirage all trembled slightly. In that case, there's no need to waste time talking. Seeing that his scheme had been exposed, Ao Ying's eyes immediately turned cold. The dragon race had always prided themselves as the strongest race in the universe. Even the powerful cultivators of the same race found it difficult to unify the entire dragon race. As a dragon with the arch bloodline flowing in his body, Ao Ying naturally would not submit to a half-blooded human dragon. As expected, I still have to make a move. 5 God Sky. Qin Yu was not surprised. If he wanted to subdue the dragon race, he would have to be very powerful. Otherwise, they would have to be forcefully suppressed to make them submit. Of course, this forceful suppression was not like in his previous life, where they would die if they did not submit. Just like when he killed the sky dragon in the Black Sea, Qin Yu still did not crush his dragon soul. When Qin Yu was strong enough, he would naturally have the means to make them submit completely. But at this stage, if he could not suppress them, then he could only directly kill them and take their dragon origin blood. As the formation trembled, 5 lifelike formation giants appeared in the ethereal extent. It was the 5 gods' heaven subduing formation. Following Qin Yu's breakthrough in cultivation, the power of the 5 gods' heaven subduing formation also increased by a level. Rumble. Ao Ying, who had just fought with the dragon chi fighting soul, had used her secret technique to win. Qin Yu, who was well prepared, went all out and was defeated one after another. Not only is he proficient in the Tao of space, but he also controls the primordial divine formation. Ao Ing, whose injuries were becoming more and more serious, was even more shocked when she tried to defend herself. He finally understood why he felt such a strong sense of danger towards Xinyu. Ao Ing was also increasingly curious about Xinyu's background, even though he knew that AOD wouldn't find an ordinary person to join forces with. However, Xinyu's mysterious methods were still completely out of Ao Ying's expectations. If this goes on, we'll really be suppressed. Xinyu suffered another heavy blow, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. Ao Ying's eyes flashed with a vicious light. Superpower, Thousand Illusionary Shadow Tao. Without any hesitation, Ao Ying revealed his true form. Soon after, a dazzling black light appeared on the enormous dragon body that was tens of thousands of feet long and blotted out the sun. In the next instant, the dazzling black light appeared once again. It was like a meteor shower that shot out in all directions. Every ray of dazzling black light had an ultimate illusion that would cause anyone who saw it to be mesmerized. The dragon chief fighting soul from before had lost its life to this superpower. Destroy. However, Xinyu didn't panic at all. His black pupils flickered. The ultimate illusionary techniques of the dazzling black light falling from the sky were all seen through by him. Swoosh! In a flash, Xinyu appeared in front of the black light like a ghost and pointed his finger. The space immediately turned into a swamp, and the black light that was tearing through the sky slowed down by several times. The Dragon Soul's space-time superpower slowed down the flow of time. How can this be? A figure appeared in the black light. It was Ao Ing. Seeing that Xinyu had instantly seen through his true form, Ao Ing was extremely shocked. His ability to escape could be counted with one's fingers even in the Outer Realm dragon race. Apart from that divine ancestor, this was the first time Ao Ing had encountered something like this. Whoosh! Whoosh! Without waiting for Ao Ing to react, Xinyu attacked again. The 5 divine curses ancient array immediately turned into 5 divine curses that shot through the sky and wrapped around Ao Ing. Ao Ying's 1,000 illusionary shadow Tao was the power of shadows and the ultimate illusion Tao. Even among the countless illusionary Tao, it was definitely a top superpower. Unfortunately, all Taos in the world had something that countered them. The Ghost Ancestor Divine Eye's destruction superpower not only had the power to destroy, but could also see through illusions. It could be said that Ao Ying's origin superpower was perfectly countered by the Ghost Ancestor Divine Eye. Seal. As the 5-god sky subduing formation wrapped around Ao Ing, Xinyu formed a hand seal and prepared to seal Ao Ying's Dragon Soul. Dragon Emperor Divine Seal. But at this moment, Ao Ing, who knew that she could not escape, suddenly shone with a black, crystal-like light. Then there was a cracking sound, and Ao Ing was completely frozen by the black crystal. Looking at Ao Ing, who had turned into a black crystal, Xinyu raised his eyebrows and the sky-splitting divine spear appeared. With a thrust of the spear, the black crystal clanked, but it did not move at all, let alone shatter. This is... Xinyu carefully sensed for a moment, and a strange look flashed across his eyes. This crystal seems to be refined from some kind of dragon bone. The dragon soul appeared and also sensed with rapt attention. It's very likely that it's the dragon bone of a divine dragon. Xinyu's eyes flashed. A divine dragon was equivalent to an ancient emperor of the human race. If one's cultivation was high enough, a divine dragon could completely crush an ancient emperor of the same level with their own superpower. After thinking for a moment, Xinyu put away Ao Ing, who had turned into a black crystal. With Xinyu's knowledge and skills, it was not impossible to break this black crystal. But now, he did not have the time to do so. After all, Ao Ing was already in his hands. This cooked duck could not escape. After the dragon's soul dissipated, Qin Yu continued to walk towards the ancient battlefield. He hunted dragon chi fighting souls while looking for other transformed dragons. He also searched for the Dragon Emperor's legacy. Although he did not know much about the Dragon Emperor's tomb, Qin Yu was very sure. This ancient battlefield definitely had something to do with the Dragon Emperor's tomb. It was a pity that Ao Ying had used a secret technique to seal herself. Otherwise, Qin Yu would have been able to find out the exact location of the Dragon Emperor's tomb from her. This is almost as Ao Ying used the Dragon Emperor's divine sealing technique to seal herself in the central region of the ancient battlefield. A figure who had just killed a dragon chi fighting soul seemed to have sensed something, and his body suddenly froze. Ao Ying, something happened. This person was the Dragon Emperor of the extraterritorial dragon tribe, Ao Ba. Ao Ba looked at a dark gray dragon scale in his palm, his eyes filled with disbelief. Ao Ying had used the Dragon Emperor's divine sealing technique. This meant that Ao Ying was at the brink of death. Chapter 577. That was why Ao Ba was so shocked. In terms of combat strength, Ao Ying wasn't the strongest among the four of them. But in terms of escaping, even Ao Ba wasn't sure if he could trap Ao Ying. Was there a forbidden area in the ancient battlefield that Ao Ying couldn't escape from? Or could it be that someone had trapped Ao Ying? To be honest, Ao Ba hoped that it was the first possibility. After all, this was the tomb of the Dragon Emperor. It was normal for the first possibility to appear. But if it was the second possibility, then there would be too many variables. Thinking of this, Ao Ba sent a trace of soul power into the gray dragon scale on his palm. What's going on? I can't sense where Ao Ying is. After sensing for a while, Ao Ba was shocked and in disbelief. The gray dragon scale was one of Ao Ying's origin dragon scales. To deal with this situation, Ao Ba had sealed the origin dragon scales of Ao Ying and the other two. Ao Ba didn't expect that he couldn't sense where Ao Ying was even with the origin dragon scales. After a while, Ao Ba immediately sent a message to Ao Li and Ao Xie. The inheritance of the Dragon Emperor was the most important, but he had to find out where Ao Ying was. Ao Ying, Ao Li, Ao Xie, and Xianhai were all Ao Ba's right-hand men. After Xianhai, who was in charge of the 9 prefectures, met with an accident, Ao Ba lost all information about the 9 prefectures. Therefore, Ao Ying, who was in charge of some important areas, couldn't meet with any accident. 2 days later, I'm finally here. At the end of the ancient battlefield, a figure walked in the air in front of a gray area. This person was AOD. AOD couldn't hide the excitement in his eyes when he felt the blood in his body boiling. After 2 days of battle, AOD, who had been killing the dragon chi fighting souls, finally crossed the ancient battlefield. After taking a deep breath, AOD stepped into the gray area and disappeared. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Not long after AOD entered, 3 silhouettes silently flew through the air and arrived. The Grand Elder is right. We can only find the inheritance of the Dragon Emperor by following him. Ao Xie looked at the gray area, and his eyes lit up. He had flown back and forth several times when he was hunting the dragon aura battle souls. However, he didn't find anything strange here. To his surprise, he had followed AOD all the way back to this place. Aobal looked at that area and then at the surrounding area. His brows were slightly furrowed as if he was sensing something. Dragon Emperor, the most important thing now is to obtain the Dragon Emperor's inheritance. Aoli saw Ao Ba's expression and knew that Ao Ba was searching for Ao Ying's whereabouts. During these 2 days, they had traversed an unknown number of places in this ancient battlefield, yet they still hadn't found a trace of Ao Ying. Previously, they had suspected that Ao Ying had fallen into AOD's hands. However, they hadn't sensed Ao Ying's aura on AOD during their journey here. That's right. Since Ao Ing has used the Dragon Emperor's godly sealing technique, she won't be in any danger for the time being. Moreover, if Ao Ing is really trapped somewhere in the ancient battlefield, only you who have obtained the Dragon Emperor's inheritance will be able to rescue him. Upon seeing this, Ao Xia also spoke up. Ao Ba was the strongest dragon son among the many dragon sons of the Outer Realm Dragon clan. Xiao Chan was praised by the Supreme Elder as a demonic genius who might reach the level of the Dragon Emperor. Now that the Dragon Emperor's inheritance was right in front of him, Ao Xian naturally didn't want Ao Ba to give up this opportunity. Although the Dragon clan was now comparable to the extraterritorial royal clans in the Outer Realm. However, as the Supreme Elder grew older day by day, there were no new divine heavenly sovereigns. The extraterritorial Dragon clan situation was getting more and more delicate. Therefore, they urgently needed AOD to obtain the Dragon Emperor's inheritance and become a divine Dragon clan member. As long as the Dragon clan had one more divine heavenly sovereign, their status would be greatly elevated regardless of whether they were in the Outer Realm or the Heavenly Domain. Let's go. Ao Ba's eyes flashed as he made up his mind. His goal was to recreate the glory of the Dragon clan during the Dragon Emperor's time. Although he was worried about Ao Ying's safety, he couldn't afford to lose the Dragon Emperor's inheritance. If he had to choose between the two, Ao Ba would naturally choose the Dragon Emperor's inheritance without hesitation. Immediately, the three of them followed AOD and rushed into the dusky area. Whoosh! When Ao Ba and the other two disappeared, a figure swept across the void and appeared. What secret skill did they use? Qin Yu's eyes flickered as he looked at Ao Ba and the other two who had disappeared. Whether it was Ao Ing, whom he had met earlier, or Ao Ba and the other two now, they couldn't detect them with their secret skills. Unless they revealed their own fluctuations, even the Dragon Soul's secret skill couldn't detect their presence. That was probably why AOD, who was extremely vigilant, didn't notice that they were secretly following them. Whoosh! After pausing for a moment, Qin Yu also moved and rushed into the dusky area. The moment he entered, Qin Yu's expression changed. The grayish color that filled this area was actually a stream of air that resembled the primal chaos dragon chi of the Dragon Soul. However, it wasn't dragon chi, but an extremely strange power. This is... Qin Yu turned around to look. His face was filled with shock. Although he had just taken a step into the area, he could see the dusky area behind him. He couldn't see the end of it in all directions. This area was actually an independent world. In other words, this dusky world was like the 9 provinces of the Heaven Domain. It wasn't like the ordinary spatial secret realms, void spaces, or chaotic spaces. This made Qin Yu extremely shocked. What kind of cultivation did one have to be able to create a real world? Qin Yu was more and more certain that even if the Dragon Emperor hadn't stepped into the rumored ancient immortal realm of the primordial age, he had already reached the ancient immortal realm. He had definitely crossed the 9th level of the martial path and stepped into a whole new level of cultivation. Rumble. Suddenly, a frightening ripple that caused the entire place to tremble continuously spread out from the depths of the cave. A vast and unfathomable dragon's might swept out like a stormy sea, suppressing the entire world in an instant. Qin Yu, who was standing in the air, suddenly descended several hundred feet. It was as if an enormous mountain was pressing down on him at this moment. What a terrifying soul power fluctuation! The Dragon Soul and the Divine Dragon Ancient Seal felt the terrifying dragon aura, and its eyes suddenly lit up like stars. That soul power fluctuation was the fluctuation of the Dragon Clan soul. So far, the Dragon Soul had never felt such a terrifying dragon soul fluctuation. Without a doubt, this Dragon Soul pressure was definitely left behind by the Dragon Emperor. Qin Yu directly descended from the sky and escaped into the ground. In the center of this dusky world, there was a mountain range of stone bones that stretched for tens of thousands of miles. At the end of the mountain range of corpses, there was a skeleton that was tens of thousands of feet tall. If one looked carefully, they would be able to discover that the skeleton was a huge dragon head. This mountain range of stone bones that stretched for tens of thousands of miles was not a stone bone, but a skeleton of Shunron that was tens of thousands of miles long. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.